The Force binds all things across the galaxy, connecting every living being in an invisible web of energy and life. For thousands of generations, the Jedi have served as its guardians, believing they understood its will and purpose. But the Force touches more than one reality, and sometimes the barriers between worlds grow thin. On this day, in the jungles of Felucia during the third year of the Clone Wars, something impossible happened. Two warriors from beyond the stars fell through a tear in existence itself, carrying with them skills and powers this galaxy had never seen, and perhaps the only chance to prevent its greatest tragedy. The rift opened like a wound in space, crackling with energy that made the Force itself recoil. Separatist scientists had been testing an experimental hyperspace disruptor, hoping to trap Republic vessels mid-jump. What they hadn't known was that their test site sat atop ancient Sith ruins, and their technology had resonated with dark artifacts buried for millennia. The collision of advanced science and ancient Sith alchemy created something neither side intended, a doorway to other realities. Drizzt Do'Urden tumbled through darkness, his lavender eyes wide as the Underdark vanished and alien sky replaced familiar stone. The Drow Ranger twisted mid-fall, decades of combat instinct taking over as jungle canopy rushed toward him. His scimitars, twinkle and icing, death flashed from their sheaths, the blades biting into thick branches to slow his descent. Leaves exploded around him as he crashed through layer after layer of vegetation, finally hitting the ground in a controlled roll that left him crouched and ready, both weapons raised. The air tasted wrong, smelled wrong. The very essence of magic that had surrounded him moments ago, the weave that connected all things in his world, was simply gone. Drizzt's keen senses, honed by a lifetime in the lightless depths and decades on the surface, cataloged his situation with practiced efficiency. Humid air, dense vegetation, no sign of the Drow war party he'd been tracking. The suns, he realized with a start, cast unfamiliar light through the canopy. This was not Faerun. Before he could contemplate further, a second explosion of energy announced another arrival. Drizzt's gaze snapped upward as a figure wreathed in blue-white energy plummeted toward the jungle floor. The being, a young human male encased in some kind of technological armor, fired bursts of energy from his hands to slow his fall, touching down 50 feet away with surprising grace. "Steele, what just happened?" Max McGrath's voice carried clearly through the humid air. "That weapon was supposed to open a portal to the villain dimension, not... Where are we?" A metallic voice responded from the armor itself. "Unknown, Max. My sensors are recalibrating. This reality's energy signatures are completely foreign. I'm detecting massive amounts of organic life, advanced technology in orbit, and something else. An energy field I cannot classify." Drizzt stepped from the shadows, his dark elven features and distinctive white hair immediately visible. Max spun, energy crackling around his fists as turbo strength mode activated instinctively. For a moment, the two warriors faced each other in tense silence, a dark elf ranger with blades drawn and a techno-warrior with glowing fists raised. "Peace," Drizzt said in common, hoping whatever translation magic existed here worked. To his surprise, the words emerged in a language he'd never spoken, yet understood perfectly. "I mean you no harm. It seems we are both far from home." Max's tactical visor scanned the Drow, feeding data to Steele. Humanoid, non-human physiology, unknown species. Those blades, Max, they're enchanted. I'm reading magical energy signatures. Magic? Max lowered his hands slightly but remained alert. "You're not with Machino or Morphos. I know not these names." Drizzt sheathed icing death but kept Twinkle ready. "I am Drizzt Do'Urden, Ranger of the North. Moments ago I was in the Underdark. Now I stand in a jungle beneath alien stars. the same befell you." Before Max could answer, the jungle erupted with sound and movement. Armored figures in white surrounded them with military precision, weapons raised. But these were no swords or crossbows Drizzt recognized. They resembled the energy projectors Max wielded, but carried by soldiers in identical armor. "Don't move." The lead soldier's voice was firm but not hostile. "Identify yourselves. How did you get past our perimeter?" Drizzt's ranger senses analyzed the soldiers instantly. Identical movements, identical voices, identical builds beneath that armor. Clones or constructs of some kind. His grip on Twinkle tightened as he calculated odds and escape routes. Max's HUD identified the soldiers' equipment. Steel, those are plasma-based weapons. Advanced but not ultralink technology. Run a universal translator. I'm getting basic language patterns. "I am CT-7215, commanding security for the Republic outpost on Felucia," the clone trooper continued. "You will lower your weapons and submit to questioning. General Tano is inbound." The name meant nothing to either warrior, but the situation was clear. They were surrounded by professional soldiers with unknown capabilities in an unfamiliar world. Drizzt met Max's eyes across the clearing, and in that moment, both warriors made the same decision. They had survived impossible situations before by choosing wisdom over violence. Drizzt slowly lowered Twinkle, raising his empty hand. Max powered down his turbo energy, the blue glow fading from his armor. Whatever galaxy they'd fallen into, they would need answers before choosing their path. And something in the Force itself whispered that their arrival was no accident. The Republic outpost on Felucia was a study in controlled chaos. Clone troopers moved with practiced efficiency through prefabricated structures, half swallowed by aggressive jungle growth. Medical tents treated wounded soldiers while mechanics worked on damaged LLAT gunships. The war was everywhere here, even in this temporary moment of respite. Drizzt walked between two clone escorts, his weapons secured but not taken. A show of tentative trust from CT-7215. His dark elven heritage drew stares from every trooper they passed, but the Drow Ranger was accustomed to such reactions. What fascinated him more was how each soldier moved with identical gait, identical posture. Whatever magic or science had created them was beyond his experience. Max Steel walked beside him, his armor's sensors working overtime to catalog this new reality. "Steel, are you getting any of this?" "Fascinating, Max," the Ultralink responded directly into his mind. "These clone troopers are genetically identical humans, grown artificially and programmed for combat. The technology is centuries beyond Earth's capabilities, yet their weapons are less efficient than your turbo energy. This civilization has mastered biological engineering and space travel, but relies on relatively primitive energy projection. And that energy field you mentioned? Still analyzing. It permeates everything, every living being, every structure, even the air itself. It's not electromagnetic, not nuclear, not dark energy. It's something entirely outside my frame of reference." Their escort stopped before a larger structure where a young Togruta woman stood waiting, her orange skin marked with white patterns. Her blue and white head tails draped over her shoulders. She wore earth-toned clothing and carried two cylindrical devices at her belt. Her stance was relaxed but ready, and her blue eyes studied the newcomers with intense curiosity mixed with caution. "I'm Ahsoka Tano," she said, moving forward with confidence that belied her youth. "Former Jedi, currently working with the Republic as an independent operative. CT-7215 says you appeared out of nowhere in the middle of a secure zone. No ship, no explanation, just appeared." Drizzt bowed slightly, recognizing a warrior when he saw one despite her young age. "I am Drizzt Do'Urden. Your soldier speaks truth. I cannot explain what brought me here, only that one moment I was in my world, and the next I stood in your jungle. Max McGrath, Max added, his faceplate retracting to show his human features. Same story. Some kind of dimensional rift pulled us through. We're not enemies, we're just lost. Ahsoka circled them slowly, and Drizzt felt something wash over him, not magic as he knew it, but something similar. A probing presence that touched the edges of his consciousness with surprising gentleness. The Drow Ranger, having faced mind flayers and illithids, recognized psychic investigation when he felt it. He did not resist, having nothing to hide, but he met Ahsoka's gaze steadily. "You're telling the truth," Ahsoka said finally, surprise evident in her voice. "Or at least, you believe you are. But there's something else she pointed at Drizzt. "You have a connection to the Force, but it's wrong, distant, like you're touching it through a wall. And she turned to Max. "You're bonded to something alive inside that armor." "Her perception is remarkable," Steele commented to Max. "She's detecting me through psychic or extrasensory means." Max nodded. "His name is Steele. He's my partner, an Ultralink. We're connected at the molecular level, and before you ask, he's one of the good guys." "Ultralink," Ahsoka tested the word. "And you mentioned a dimensional rift. We've had reports of unusual energy readings near the Separatist weapons facility, but nothing that would explain." She gestured at them both. "This." Drizzt spoke carefully, choosing his words with the diplomacy he'd learned from years among surface dwellers. "Lady Tano, we find ourselves strangers in your world. We seek no conflict and make no claims. We ask only for information and, when possible, aid in returning to our homes. In exchange, we offer our skills. I am Ranger and Warrior. If there is evil to fight in this place, my blades are ready. I fight for justice and protect the innocent," Max added. "That's kind of my thing. Whatever's going on here, if you're the good guys, we want to help." Ahsoka studied them both for a long moment. Since leaving the Jedi Order, she'd learned to trust her instincts even more than before. The Force whispered around these strangers with confusion and curiosity, but not darkness. They were dangerous, that much was obvious, but not malicious. "The Republic is at war with the Separatists," she explained. "It's been going on for 3 years now. The Jedi Order serves as generals in the Republic's army, leading clone troopers like the ones you met. We're trying to preserve democracy and freedom against those who would fracture the galaxy into chaos." Drizzt's expression darkened. "War between nations is familiar to me. I have seen how conflict poisons even those who fight for noble causes. Tell me, who decides what is noble in your war?" The question hit harder than Ahsoka expected. It was the same question she'd been asking herself since leaving the Order, since watching the Republic drift further from its ideals. "That's complicated." "It always is," Drizzt replied quietly. Max's sensors suddenly flared with warnings. "Steele, I'm picking up incoming aircraft, multiple signatures, heavily armed." Ahsoka's comlink chirped. "General Tano, Republic Command has dispatched a diplomatic transport. They want the unknowns brought to Coruscant for questioning by the Jedi Council." "Of course they do," Ahsoka muttered. She looked at Drizzt and Max. "Looks like you're about to meet the people who run this war. Fair warning, the Jedi Council doesn't like surprises, and you two are the biggest surprise this galaxy has seen in a very long time." Drizzt's hand drifted to Twinkle's hilt. "Are we prisoners?" "Guests," Ahsoka corrected, though her tone suggested the line was thin. "But guests who need to answer a lot of questions. Trust me, if the Council thinks you're a threat, those questions will be very difficult. I'll speak for you, but you'll need to be honest with them. The Force lets Jedi sense deception, and Master Windu has very little patience." as Republic gunships descended through the jungle canopy, their roar drowning out the native wildlife. Drizzt felt the familiar weight of judgment approaching. He had stood trial before surface dwellers before, his dark elven heritage damning him before he could speak. But he had learned that honor proved itself through actions, not words. Beside him, Max powered his armor back up, blue energy crackling across the surface. Whatever this Jedi Council was, they would see that Max Steel fought for justice. That had to count for something. Neither warrior noticed how Ahsoka's expression had tightened with concern, or how her hand had moved unconsciously to one of the cylindrical weapons at her belt. The Force was showing her something. A vision of darkness approaching, of betrayal and fire, and these two strangers standing at the center of a storm they couldn't possibly understand yet. "May the Force be with us," she whispered as the gunships landed and clone troopers began securing the area. "We're going to need it." Coruscant gleamed like a jewel in the void, its entire surface covered in a single massive city that stretched from pole to pole. Drizzt pressed his face close to the viewport of the Republic transport, his lavender eyes wide with wonder. He had seen the great cities of Faerun, Waterdeep, Neverwinter, even the drow city of Menzoberranzan in all its terrible beauty. None compared to this. This was a world that had murdered its own nature and replaced it with metal and light. "Steel, are you seeing this?" Max stood beside the drow, equally amazed. His HUD displayed population estimates, energy consumption rates, and structural analysis. The numbers were staggering. 1 trillion inhabitants, Max. Possibly more. This single city world has a larger population than Earth's entire history combined. The engineering required to maintain this is beyond anything I've encountered. The transport descended through layers of traffic that would have made New York City's rush hour look peaceful. Flying vehicles of countless designs wove through sky lanes with practiced precision, guided by computer systems and what Ahsoka explained was Force-sensitive traffic control. The Jedi Temple rose from the urban landscape like a mountain of ancient stone, its 5 spires reaching toward the sky with solemn grandeur. "That's where we're headed," Ahsoka said, moving to stand with them. She'd spent the journey explaining the basics of this galaxy, the Republic, the Separatists, the Jedi Order, and the mysterious energy field called the Force that connected all living things. Both warriors had listened with the intensity of soldiers gathering intelligence in enemy territory. Drizzt had been particularly interested in the Force. It reminded him of the Weave, though Ahsoka insisted it was different, not a source of magic to be tapped, but a living energy that flowed through everything. When he'd attempted to call upon his innate drow abilities during the flight, darkness, fairy fire, levitation, nothing had happened. The Weave didn't exist here. He was diminished, reduced to blade and bow and natural skill. The realization should have terrified him. Instead, Drizzt felt strangely liberated. How many times had his drow heritage defined him, his dark powers marking him as evil regardless of his actions? Here, he was simply a warrior. His deeds would speak louder than his blood. Max, meanwhile, had been running diagnostics on his turbo energy. Steele reported that the transition between dimensions had disrupted their power generation slightly, currently operating at about 90% capacity. Not crippling, but enough to require caution in extended combat. They'd need time to recalibrate to this galaxy's physics. The transport landed on a platform near the temple's base. Clone troopers in ceremonial red armor escorted them through massive doors into halls that spoke of millennia of history. Drizzt recognized the architecture's purpose immediately. It was designed to humble visitors, to remind them that they stood in the presence of something ancient and powerful. He'd seen similar designs in elvish strongholds and human cathedrals. They walked through corridors where Jedi of dozens of species passed, each wearing similar robes, each carrying themselves with quiet confidence. Some were human, but many were decidedly not. Blue-skinned beings with head tentacles, furry bipeds, even what appeared to be a walking tree. Drizzt found himself relaxing slightly. If this order accepted such diversity, perhaps his own appearance would cause less alarm. The council chamber sat at the top of one of the temple's spires. Tall windows showed Coruscant's endless cityscape, while in a circle sat 12 chairs, though only 9 were currently occupied. The Jedi Masters who studied Drizzt and Max did so with expressions ranging from curiosity to barely concealed suspicion. "Approach," said a stern-faced human with dark skin and a purple-bladed lightsaber at his belt. Master Mace Windu, Ahsoka had explained, was the Order's second-in-command and notoriously difficult to impress. Drizzt walked forward with the fluid grace of a lifetime's combat training. Max moved beside him, his armor's systems noting the energy signatures of each Jedi present. Every one of them radiated that mysterious force energy, some more strongly than others. "Explain yourselves," Windu commanded. "How did you come to be in Republic territory? What is your purpose here?" Before Drizzt could speak, a small green being with ancient eyes and pointed ears raised a clawed hand. Master Yoda, Ahsoka had said with obvious reverence, was over 800 years old and the wisest being in the galaxy. "Patience, Mace. See them through the Force we must. Before judgment we pass." Yoda's gaze fixed on Drizzt with unsettling intensity. "Touch the Force you do, Ranger of Darkness. Yet not of this reality your connection is. Explain this." "You will." Drizzt bowed respectfully, recognizing elders when he saw them. "Master Yoda, I am called Drizzt Do'Urden, of the Drow, dark elves from a world called Faerun. I was pursuing enemies through the Underdark when magic, beyond my understanding, pulled me to your galaxy. In my world, I am ranger and servant of Mieliki, goddess of forests. I have spent my life fighting evil despite the darkness of my heritage." "Drow?" Windu's eyes narrowed. "We have no record of such a species." "You wouldn't," Max interjected, drawing attention to himself. "We're not from this galaxy. We're from other dimensions entirely. I'm Max McGrath from Earth, bonded with an Ultralink named Steel. We fight villains who threaten innocent people. Some kind of dimensional rift pulled us through when we were stopping a weapon that was messing with reality." A female Jedi with dark skin and elegant features leaned forward, Master Luminara Unduli. "The Force flows around you strangely, young one. That armor, it's alive." "His name is Steel," Max said firmly. "He's my partner, not just equipment. We're bonded at the molecular level. He generates unlimited turbo energy that I can channel into different combat modes. We've saved Earth dozens of times." "Earth," repeated a Syrian Jedi with an elongated head, Master Ki Adi Mundi. "Another planet with humans. This complicates our understanding of human origin in the galaxy." "Irrelevant," Windu cut in. "What matters is the threat assessment. You both claim to be warriors of justice from other realities. Prove it. Let us see your true nature." Drizzt felt the psychic pressure again, much stronger than Ahsoka's gentle touch. Multiple minds pressed against his consciousness, sifting through his memories with invasive intensity. He gritted his teeth but allowed it, knowing resistance would only confirm their suspicions. Let them see. Let them witness the darkness he'd escaped, the evil he'd fought, the innocence he'd protected. Images flashed through the Council's collective perception. Drizzt fighting his own father in the Underdark, protecting surface dwellers from drow raiders, standing against demon lords and dragons, mourning friends lost to war. They saw his internal struggle, the darkness he carried and the light he chose despite it. Max experienced the same invasion, but Steele helped filter it, providing context as the Jedi probed. They saw battles against Makino and his army, Max's choice to bond with Steele to save the world, countless fights against villains who would enslave or destroy humanity. They saw his relationship with his mother, his loyalty to his friends, his unwavering commitment to protecting the innocent. When the probe withdrew, Drizzt swayed slightly but remained standing. Max's armor flickered as Steele compensated for the energy drain. "Interesting," Yoda murmured, his ears drooping thoughtfully. "Warriors true they are, darkness faced and rejected, light embraced despite cost. Yet they don't belong here," Windu finished. "The Force itself seems confused by their presence. They're anomalies in the natural order." "We didn't choose this," Max protested. "We want to go home. But until we figure out how, we're not going to just sit around. If there's a war happening and innocent people need help, we help. That's what heroes do." "Heroes," Windu repeated with something that might have been skepticism or respect. "The Republic has no shortage of those who call themselves that. What makes you different?" Drizzt spoke quietly but with iron conviction. "We are different because we have nothing to gain. No allegiance to your Republic or separatists, no stake in your conflict. We fight because it is right, not because we are commanded. Judge us not by our words, masters, but by our actions. Give us the chance to prove our worth." Yoda's eyes gleamed with what might have been approval. "Wise words, Dark One. Yet trust earned it must be. Danger in these times everywhere lurks. Even in allies unexpected." A younger Jedi Master with long hair and a calm demeanor spoke for the first time, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Perhaps a trial period? They could serve alongside Ahsoka. She's already established rapport with them, and her independent status means they wouldn't be formally attached to the Order. If they prove trustworthy, we reevaluate. If not, he left the implication hanging. "Acceptable," Windu decided, "but you will both be monitored. Any sign of deception, any hint that you serve enemy interests, and you will be detained permanently. The Republic cannot afford to take chances." "One more thing," Drizzt said, causing several Jedi to tense at his audacity to continue speaking. "In my experience, wars like yours often breed corruption on both sides. I have seen noble causes twisted by those who claim to serve them. I will fight evil where I find it, but I will not be blind to evil simply because it wears friendly colors." The silence that followed was profound and uncomfortable. Ahsoka winced, knowing Drizzt had just voiced thoughts many Jedi privately shared, but never spoke aloud. Yoda, however, chuckled, a dry, wheezing sound. "See more than most, this one does. Careful, you will be, young warriors. The Force works in mysterious ways. Your arrival, accident it may not be. Purpose in all things there is." As they were escorted from the council chamber, Ahsoka whispered urgently, "You do realize you basically just told the Jedi Council they might be wrong about everything?" Drizzt's expression remained neutral. "I told them truth. If they are wise, they will consider it. If not, then my words will not matter regardless." Max bumped fists with the Drow Ranger, a gesture of respect Steele had assured him would translate universally. "I like your style, but Steele's picking up something weird with his scanners. Those clones we saw, there's something in their heads. Some kind of chip. Organic tech. All clone troopers have behavioral modification chips," Ahsoka explained as they descended through the temple. "It's supposed to make them more docile, easier to command. The Kaminoans, the aliens who created them, said it was necessary." "Behavioral modification." Drizzt's voice carried an edge. "You mean mind control?" "No, not exactly." Ahsoka paused. "At least, that's what we've been told." Max and Drizzt exchanged a glance. Both warriors had experience with enemies who controlled minds and enslaved the innocent. The very concept made their skin crawl. "Steal, deep scan those chips next time we see clones," Max sub-vocalized. "Something's not right about this." "Agreed, Max. And there's something else. The energy readings I'm getting from that Chancellor Palpatine the Council mentioned, they're similar to the dark signatures we saw from some of the Jedi Masters, labeled as Sith in Ahsoka's briefing. That information stayed private for now. They were guests here, anomalies being tolerated. Making accusations against the Republic's leader would be suicide, but both warriors filed the information away. In their experience, secrets and lies in positions of power rarely ended well. As Coruscant's endless city sprawled beneath the temple's windows, neither Drizzt nor Max noticed the hooded figure watching them from the shadows of an adjacent chamber. Red and gold eyes studied the newcomers with predatory interest, and thin lips curved into a smile beneath the hood. The dark side of the Force whispered of possibilities and danger, of variables that could disrupt carefully laid plans. Darth Sidious had not spent decades orchestrating the Republic's fall, only to have dimensional anomalies ruin everything. These outsiders would need to be assessed, controlled, or eliminated. The Sith Lord's smile widened. Let the Jedi Council trust them. Trust made betrayal so much sweeter when the time came. 3 days confined to the Jedi Temple was enough to make Max Steel climb the walls, literally in turbo climb mode, much to the shock of several Padawan learners. Drizzt adapted better to the forced idleness, meditating in the temple gardens and observing the Jedi Order with the Ranger's patient eye. What he saw troubled him deeply. The Jedi moved through their ancient halls with purpose and discipline, but also with weariness that spoke of years of grinding conflict. They were warriors who had been peacekeepers, philosophers forced into the role of generals. Drizzt recognized the strain. He'd seen it in the eyes of Silvery Moon's defenders during the Orc Wars, in the faces of Ten Town's militia during the Goblin invasions. These were good people being slowly ground down by endless violence. But there was something else. A shadow that hung over the temple like smoke, so subtle that Drizzt almost missed it. He'd spent decades developing his senses in the Underdark, where missing subtle signs meant death. Here, something predatory moved beneath the surface of Republic politics, and the Jedi seemed blind to it. On the third evening, Ahsoka found them on a meditation balcony overlooking Coruscant's glittering sprawl. "The Council has approved your request. You're cleared to accompany me on a mission to Mandalore. Senator Amidala needs Jedi protection for diplomatic negotiations, but most of the Order is deployed to combat zones. Since I'm independent and you two need field testing." She shrugged. "Protection duty," Max said, his armor gleaming under the city lights. "Not exactly saving the galaxy, but it's a start. When do we leave?" "Tomorrow morning." "But there's something else." Ahsoka's voice dropped to barely a whisper. "I need you to not mention what you're about to see to anyone in the Order. Not yet." Drizzt's hand moved instinctively toward his scimitar. "What troubles you, Lady Tano? Follow me. And be quiet." She led them through rarely used corridors deep within the temple, areas where dust gathered and maintenance droids seldom ventured. Ahsoka moved with the confidence of someone who knew these passages intimately, bypassing security doors with codes that shouldn't have worked for someone no longer officially part of the Order. "I haven't forgotten everything I learned as Anakin's Padawan," she explained at Drizzt's questioning look, "including where the Jedi keep their secrets." They emerged in an archive that smelled of old data crystals and neglected technology. Ahsoka activated a holoscreen, pulling up files that cast blue light across her concerned features. "I've been investigating something since I left the Order. The clone army was created on Kamino by aliens called Kaminoans. They're master genetic engineers, and they designed the clones to be loyal, efficient soldiers. But when I was falsely accused of bombing the temple, I spent time with the clones who arrested me. They treated me kindly, even though they thought I was guilty. They're not machines. They're people. I've noticed that, Max said. Steele had been cataloging clone behavior for days, fascinated by how individual personalities emerged despite identical genetics. They've got nicknames, preferences, humor. They're as human as anyone. Exactly, but they're also programmed. Every clone has an inhibitor chip implanted in their brain. The Kaminoans claim it makes them less aggressive, more controllable. But I pulled the original specifications from the Jedi archives, files that are supposed to be sealed. Ahsoka's fingers danced across the interface, bringing up schematics. These chips aren't for behavior modification, they're receivers. Drizzt leaned closer, his dark elven heritage granting him exceptional vision even in the dim light. The schematic showed intricate biological technology interfacing directly with the clone's neural tissue. Receivers for what purpose? Commands, specific executable protocols that bypass conscious thought. The chips can force clones to take action, regardless of their personal feelings or loyalty. And there are numbered protocols, dozens of them. Most are innocuous, but some... She pulled up another file and her voice shook slightly. Order 66. Execute the Jedi Order as traitors to the Republic. It's programmed into every single clone trooper. The silence that followed was absolute. Max's armor flickered as Steele processed the implications. Drizzt's expression darkened like storm clouds gathering. An army of millions, the Drow Ranger said quietly, each carrying a dagger aimed at their commanders' backs. Who has authority to activate these orders? The Supreme Chancellor, Palpatine. Ahsoka pulled up another file, surveillance footage from the Senate. And that's not all. Max, you mentioned your partner Steele detected something unusual about the Chancellor. I did some digging. The footage showed Chancellor Palpatine in his office, alone and unaware of the hidden security camera. For a moment, he simply sat there, an elderly statesman reviewing documents. Then his expression changed, subtle but unmistakable. The grandfatherly concern vanished, replaced by something cold and calculating. His eyes. Freeze that frame, Drizzt commanded. Ahsoka complied, and the Drow Ranger's breath caught. He'd seen eyes like that before. In Menzo Baranzin, in the faces of priestesses who served Lolth, in demons and devils and creatures of pure malice. That is not the face of a benevolent leader. That is a predator removing its mask when it believes no one watches. Steele's been analyzing energy signatures across Coruscant, Max added. There's this dark energy that shows up in Sith historical records. You shared those with us, remember? That same energy radiates from the Senate building, specifically from Palpatine's office. It's faint, carefully hidden, but it's there. Ahsoka nodded grimly. I think Chancellor Palpatine might be a Sith Lord. I think he's been playing both sides of the war, controlling the Republic and the Separatists. And I think Order 66 is his endgame. Use the clone army to wipe out the Jedi, then declare himself Emperor with no one left to oppose him. You have proof? Drizzt asked, though his instincts already told him the answer. Not enough. Nothing that would convince the Council. They trust Palpatine completely. He's been their ally for years, and the Jedi are so focused on winning the war that they can't see the trap closing around them. When I tried to voice concerns before, I was told I was being paranoid. Because the greatest trick of evil, Drizzt said, his voice carrying the weight of hard experience, is to convince good people that suspicion itself is wrong. I have watched monsters hide behind smiles and noble words. The most dangerous are those who make you doubt your own instincts. Max paced the small archive room, his mind racing. Okay, so We've got a secret Sith Lord running the Republic, a clone army with kill switches in their heads, and a Jedi Order that's too blind or tired to see it coming. That about sum it up? Succinctly put, Ahsoka said with a weak smile. I've been trying to gather more proof, but I'm one person working outside the Order. I can't get close enough to Palpatine without raising suspicion. And if I'm wrong, if I accuse the Chancellor without evidence, I could start a political crisis that tears the Republic apart from within. And if you're right and do nothing, Drizzt countered, then evil triumphs through your inaction. I know this dilemma well, Lady Tano. It has haunted me throughout my life. Steele's voice emerged from Max's armor, audible to all of them now. There may be a solution. Max and Drizzt are dimensional anomalies. We don't register on force-sensitive perception the same way native beings do. We're blind spots in this Palpatine's precognitive abilities. If anyone could investigate him without triggering alarms, it would be us. That's incredibly dangerous, Ahsoka protested. If he is a Sith Lord, he's powerful enough to destroy all three of us without breaking a sweat. Sith are trained to kill Jedi, and even with your abilities. We have faced gods and demons, Drizzt interrupted gently but firmly. We have stood against overwhelming darkness and survived. We did not ask to be brought to your galaxy, but now that we are here, we cannot stand idle while tyranny prepares to strike. This is what we do. Max nodded agreement, his armor gleaming with determination. Besides, we're not planning to fight him directly. Not yet. We need intelligence first, proof that even the Jedi Council can't ignore. That's what heroes do. We find the truth and bring it to light. Ahsoka looked between them, seeing the unwavering resolve in both warriors. Part of her wanted to protect them from the danger she'd invited them into, but another part, the part that had learned to trust the Force even when it led down unexpected paths, recognized that their arrival might not have been accident at all. Perhaps the Force itself had brought them here for this exact purpose. If we're doing this, we do it smart, she said firmly. Mandalore first. We complete the mission, establish your credibility with Republic Command. Then we start investigating, carefully, quietly. We get evidence, build a case, and when we're ready, we expose Palpatine before he can activate Order 66. And if we cannot gather sufficient proof in time, Drizzt asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer, then we warn every Jedi we can, help them escape, and fight like hell when the hammer falls. Ahsoka's eyes blazed with fierce determination. The Order saved my life, trained me, gave me purpose. I won't let them walk blindly into a massacre, not while I can still fight. Drizzt clasped her shoulder in a gesture of solidarity, his dark elven features softened by genuine respect. You have the heart of a true ranger, Ahsoka Tano. You see the trap, you sound the warning, and you stand ready to defend those who cannot defend themselves. Mieliki herself would honor such courage. Max extended his fist, and after a moment's confusion, Ahsoka bumped it with her own. Then Drizzt did the same, catching on to the gesture of unity. Three warriors from different worlds, bound by shared purpose and the knowledge that darkness was coming. We leave for Mandalore at dawn, Ahsoka said, deactivating the holoscreen and ensuring all traces of their research were wiped from the system. Senator Amidala is one of Palpatine's closest political allies, but she's also one of the Republic's strongest advocates for peace. If anyone might be sympathetic to concerns about the Chancellor, it's her. As they made their way back through the temple's shadowed corridors, Drizzt's ranger senses prickled with warning. They were being watched. He was certain of it. Not by temple guards or Jedi, but by something else. Something that tasted of old stone and older malice. We are not alone, he whispered, his hand finding Twinkle's hilt. Max's sensors swept the area but found nothing. Steele's not detecting any life signs besides us. Trust me, Drizzt insisted, decades of Underdark survival screaming danger. Predator eyes follow us. I feel them. They quickened their pace, emerging into more populated areas of the temple where Jedi and Padawans moved through evening meditation routines. The sensation of being watched faded, but Drizzt knew it hadn't been imagination. Something in the temple itself was aware of their investigation. High above, in chambers even Ahsoka didn't know existed, Darth Sidious lowered his hand from the ancient Sith surveillance device. The dark side of the Force had shown him everything: the archive access, the conspiracy theories, the dimensional warriors pledging to interfere with his grand design. Interesting, he murmured to the empty room. The Dark Elf has perception beyond Force sensitivity. The Armored One has technology that can detect Sith energy, and young Tano has grown more dangerous outside the Order's restrictive teachings. His yellow eyes gleamed with malicious calculation. They could become complications or opportunities. He activated a secure holo-communicator, and Count Dooku's blue-tinged hologram appeared. "My lord, I did not expect..." "Change of plans, my apprentice. Our timeline accelerates. The Jedi have acquired 2 new assets, dimensional anomalies with abilities outside our calculations. They must be tested, their capabilities assessed. If they prove useful, we turn them. If not..." The Sith Lord's smile promised pain and death. "Well, accidents happen in war. What would you have me do?" "Mandalore. Senator Amidala travels there with Jedi protection. Ensure she encounters difficulties, nothing fatal but enough to force these newcomers to reveal their full capabilities. I want to know exactly what we're dealing with before Order 66 commences." "It shall be done, my lord." Dooku's hologram flickered out. Sidious sat back in his chair, steepling his fingers as he contemplated the variables. The plan was perfect, decades in the making. The Jedi would die, the Republic would fall, and the Empire would rise from the ashes. 2 dimensional warriors and a disillusioned former Padawan could not stop the inevitable. But perhaps, and this thought amused the Dark Lord greatly, perhaps they would make the victory even sweeter. There was artistry in crushing hope, in showing heroes that their efforts were meaningless against the dark side's perfection. "Let them investigate," he whispered to the shadows. "Let them discover fragments of truth. It will make no difference. When the moment comes, when Order 66 echoes across the galaxy, they will understand what true power means, and they will despair." In the temple gardens, Drizzt stood alone in meditation, Gwenhwyvar's figurine clutched in his hand. He had tried summoning his faithful companion multiple times since arriving in this galaxy. Each attempt had failed. The magic that bound the panther to her astral home simply didn't function here. He was alone in ways he hadn't been since first leaving Menzoberranzan. "I do not know if you can hear me, old friend," he whispered to the night. "I do not know if the boundaries between our worlds allow even thoughts to pass. But I find myself in a place where darkness gathers like storm clouds, where good people march blindly toward disaster. I have only my blades, my skills, and 2 allies I barely know. It is not enough. It is never enough." He paused, gripping the figurine tighter. "Yet I will try, because trying is all we have, because the alternative is surrender, and that I cannot do." A slight breeze stirred the garden, natural or the Force responding to his determination, he couldn't say. But for a moment, Drizzt could have sworn he felt Gwenhwyvar's presence, a phantom warmth that reminded him he was never truly alone. The bonds of friendship transcended dimensions, even when magic failed. Across the temple, Max sat on a meditation platform, his armor powered down, talking quietly with Steel. "You getting a bad feeling about all this?" "I am an Ultralink, Max. I do not experience feelings in the traditional sense. However, my analytical protocols suggest we have inserted ourselves into a situation with cascading catastrophic potential. The probability of survival if we engage directly with a Sith Lord of Palpatine's apparent power level is approximately— "I don't want to know the percentage," Max interrupted, "because we're doing this anyway. Those clones, they're good guys, Steele. They joke around, they protect people. They're just doing their jobs. And someone programmed them to murder their friends on command. That's sick. That's exactly the kind of thing we fight against." "Agreed. I merely wish to ensure you understood the risks." "I always understand the risks. Doesn't mean I back down." Max looked out over Coruscant's endless lights, thinking of his own world, his mother, his friends. Would he ever see them again? Or would he die on some alien battlefield, fighting a war that wasn't his? But then he thought of the clones he'd met, good soldiers who deserved better than to be used as weapons against their own commanders. He thought of Ahsoka, cast out by her order but still fighting for what was right. He thought of Drizzt, an outsider who had spent his entire life battling the darkness others expected him to embrace. "We're going to make a difference here, Steele. Somehow. Even if we can't stop Order 66, even if Palpatine wins, we'll save someone. We'll make it count." "That is very heroic of you, Max. Statistically improbable, but heroic." "Story of my life, buddy. Story of my life." In her own quarters, Ahsoka packed for the Mandalore mission, but her mind was light years away. The Force swirled around her with chaotic energy, showing her fragments of possible futures. She saw the temple burning. She saw clone troopers with dead eyes executing Jedi. She saw Anakin, her master, her brother, in all but blood, consumed by darkness. She saw herself running, always running, with the galaxy itself hunting her. But she also saw other possibilities, futures where Drizzt's blades flashed in defense of younglings, where Max Steele's energy shields protected fleeing Jedi, where her warning reached enough people that the Order survived, diminished but alive. The futures were clouded, uncertain, but not entirely hopeless. Master Yoda was right, she whispered to herself. Their arrival wasn't an accident. The Force brought them here for a reason. I just hope that reason is enough. As Coruscant's artificial day gave way to artificial night, 3 warriors from 3 different worlds prepared for a mission that would test everything they believed about heroism, sacrifice, and the cost of standing against the dark. They didn't know that Count Dooku was already en route to Mandalore with a battalion of battle droids. They didn't know that Darth Sidious watched their every move through the dark side's all-seeing eye. They only knew that tomorrow they would step onto a battlefield where the true enemy wore friendly faces and the greatest threat came from within. And they knew that when the moment came, when Order 66 echoed across the stars and the galaxy itself betrayed its protectors, they would fight. Because that's what heroes did. Even when the odds were impossible, even when the fight seemed hopeless, even when the galaxy itself had gone mad with war and deception, they would fight. And perhaps, just perhaps, that would be enough. The Mandalore system hung in space like a jewel reclaimed from ruin. The planet's surface showed green returning to wastelands that had once been atomic deserts. Cities rebuilt after centuries of warrior culture had nearly destroyed the world. Duchess Satine Kryze had transformed Mandalore from a death world into a symbol of peace, a transformation that made her both beloved and despised by those who clung to the old warrior ways. Senator Padme Amidala stood at the viewport of their diplomatic shuttle, her expression troubled. She was younger than Drizzt had expected for someone with such political power, barely older than Ahsoka, yet she carried herself with the poise of someone who had negotiated with kings and warlords. Her handmaidens surrounded her in careful formation, and the Drow Ranger's keen eyes noted how each moved with combat training hidden beneath elegant robes. The Duchess requested Republic mediation for the Death Watch conflict, Padme explained as their shuttle descended through Mandalore's atmosphere. They're Mandalorian extremists who reject peace, who want to return to the old ways of conquest and violence. They've been launching terrorist attacks against civilian targets, trying to destabilize Satine's government. Terrorists who claim to fight for tradition, Drizzt said quietly. I have seen this pattern before. Those who romanticize violence rarely understand its true cost. Max's sensors swept the landing zone as they approached Sundari, Mandalore's capital city. The architecture was distinctly different from Coruscant, elegant white structures with curved designs that seemed to flow rather than dominate. Steels picking up energy signatures consistent with Mandalorian armor. Lots of it. Some of it's moving in formation outside the city perimeter. Death Watch patrols, Ahsoka confirmed, her hand resting near her lightsabers. Since leaving the Order, she'd reclaimed the weapons, white blades that hummed with contained power. They've been getting bolder. Intelligence suggests they have a new leader, someone providing them with advanced weapons and tactical support. Let me guess, Max said darkly. Separatist support? Because that seems to be the pattern. Find a conflict, pour fuel on it, watch the Republic spread itself thinner. You learn quickly, Padme observed with approval. Yes. We suspect Count Dooku is backing Death Watch. It fits his methods. But we have no proof, and accusations without evidence would spark a diplomatic incident. The shuttle touched down on a gleaming landing platform where Duchess Satine waited with her royal guard. She was striking. Blonde hair, blue eyes, and a bearing that spoke of iron will wrapped in diplomatic grace. But what caught Drizzt's attention was the way Ahsoka tensed, the way the Force seemed to ripple with old pain around the young Togruta. Senator Amidala, welcome to Mandalore, Satine greeted them warmly, then her gaze shifted to the others. Ahsoka Tano, it has been some time. I heard you left the Jedi Order. I am sorry for your troubles. Your Grace, Ahsoka's voice was carefully neutral. Thank you for receiving us. These are my companions, Drizzt Do'Urden and Max McGrath, also known as Max Steele. They're consultants helping with Republic security. Satine's eyebrows rose as she took in Drizzt's dark elven features and Max's technological armor. The Republic employs interesting consultants these days. I trust they understand that Mandalore is a peaceful world. We do not tolerate violence within our cities. We understand, Your Grace, Drizzt said with a respectful bow. We are here to protect, not to provoke. Though I confess curiosity about your warrior heritage, it is rare to see a people choose peace after centuries of conflict. It was choose peace or choose extinction, Satine replied, her voice carrying the weight of hard experience. My people learned that lesson in blood and fire. Now we build instead of destroy. Some call it weakness. I call it wisdom. A massive explosion rocked the platform, throwing everyone to the ground. Drizzt rolled with the blast, coming up in a combat crouch with both scimitars drawn. Max's armor activated instantly, shields forming as debris rained down. Ahsoka ignited her lightsabers, the white blades deflecting shrapnel away from Padme and Satine. Through the smoke and chaos, armored figures descended on jetpacks, Mandalorian warriors in dark armor adorned with Death Watch symbols. Their leader wore distinctive horned helmet and carried weapons that crackled with electrical energy. Duchess Satine, the leader's voice boomed through helmet speakers. Your peace has made Mandalore weak. Death Watch will restore our warrior heritage, even if we must burn your pretty cities to do it. Blaster fire erupted across the landing platform. Satine's royal guards returned fire, but they were ceremonial protectors facing combat veterans. 3 guards fell in the opening seconds, their armor insufficient against concentrated assault. Drizzt moved like shadow made lethal. His ranger training took over as he weaved between blaster bolts with preternatural grace, closing distance on the nearest Death Watch soldier. Twinkle and Icing Death sang as they met, Mandalorian Beskar armor, the legendary metal that could withstand lightsaber strikes. The scimitars couldn't cut through, but Drizzt didn't need to cut. He struck joints and weak points with surgical precision, his blades finding gaps in the armor that no blacksmith could eliminate. The Mandalorian staggered as Drizzt's pommel strike caved in his helmet's breathing apparatus, then dropped as a spinning kick swept his legs. The Drow Ranger caught the falling warrior's blaster in midair and fired it one-handed, while his other hand deflected incoming fire with Icing Death's blade, a technique that should have been impossible but somehow worked. Max Steel launched into the air on turbo flight mode, energy blazing around him like a blue star. Steel, analyze their armor. Find me weak points. Beskar plating on chest, back and helmet. Joints use Durasteel mesh for flexibility, vulnerable to concentrated energy bursts. Jetpacks run on compressed fuel, highly explosive if ruptured. Got it! Max targeted the nearest airborne Mandalorian, hitting the jetpack's fuel line with a precise turbo energy blast. The explosion sent the warrior spinning out of control, crashing into 2 of his companions in a tangle of armor and profanity. Ahsoka moved to protect Padme and Satine, her white lightsabers creating a defensive barrier that turned the landing platform into a fortress. Blaster bolts deflected harmlessly away, some redirected back at their shooters with Jedi precision. Get to the palace, we'll hold them here. But the Death Watch leader had other plans. He fired a cable from his gauntlet that wrapped around Padme's waist, yanking the senator toward him. The Republic's darling, what a prize you'll make. Drizzt's response was instantaneous. He hurled Twinkle with deadly accuracy, the scimitar spinning through the air to sever the cable mid-pull. Padme fell back into her handmaiden's protective formation, while Drizzt caught his returning blade and charged the Death Watch leader with murderous intent. You dare! The Mandalorian drew a vibro blade that hummed with energy, meeting Drizzt's charge with a warrior's eagerness. Beskar met enchanted steel in a shower of sparks, and for the first time since arriving in this galaxy, Drizzt faced an opponent who matched his speed and skill. They dueled across the platform in a deadly dance, the Mandalorian's brutal power strikes against the Drow's fluid precision. The warrior had strength and superior armor, but Drizzt had centuries of experience fighting in the Underdark, where a single mistake meant death. He saw the patterns in his opponent's attacks, the slight telegraph before each strike, the fractional imbalance after each parry. When the opening came, Drizzt took it. He ducked under a decapitating swing, pivoted inside the Mandalorian's guard, and drove Icing Death's pommel into the warrior's throat with controlled force, enough to stun without killing. As the leader dropped to his knees, gasping, Drizzt swept his legs and disarmed him in one smooth motion. I said we came in peace, the Drow Ranger said coldly, both scimitars at the fallen warrior's throat. You made your choice. Live with the consequences. Max had disabled 3 more Death Watch soldiers with targeted energy blasts that overloaded their armor systems without killing them. The remaining attackers, seeing their leader defeated and half their number down, triggered their jetpacks and retreated into Sundari's outskirts. The entire battle had lasted less than 3 minutes. Satine stared at Drizzt and Max with newfound respect and wariness. Your consultants are remarkably effective, Senator Amidala. I am grateful for their intervention, though I confess concern about what the Republic is sending to my peaceful world. They saved your life, Your Grace, Padme pointed out, brushing dust from her robes with remarkable composure for someone who just survived assassination. Perhaps that speaks to their character more than their capabilities. Ahsoka deactivated her lightsabers, surveying the captured Death Watch soldiers. This was too organized, too well-timed. They knew exactly when we were landing, exactly where the Duchess would be standing. Someone fed them intelligence. Drizzt's expression darkened as he studied the landing platform with Ranger's eyes, reading the tactical setup. More than that, this was a test. They attacked knowing they would fail, knowing we would respond. Someone wanted to see what we could do. Steele agrees, Max added, his armor's sensors sweeping for hidden surveillance. I'm detecting passive scanning equipment hidden in the surrounding buildings, military-grade observation tech. We were being watched and recorded. The implication hung heavy in the Mandalore air. Count Dooku, or more likely his Sith master, had just gotten exactly what they wanted. A full demonstration of the Dimensional Warrior's combat capabilities, weaknesses, and tactical responses. The test was complete, and the real game could now begin. In orbit above Mandalore, aboard a hidden separatist frigate, Count Dooku reviewed the battle footage with predatory interest. The Dark Elf fought with technique beyond anything he'd seen in centuries. The armored human wielded technology that rivaled advanced force powers. And young Ahsoka had grown formidable outside the Jedi Order's restrictive training. Impressive, he murmured, stroking his beard thoughtfully. But impressive tools can be broken, or turned to new purposes. He activated his secure holo-communicator. My lord, I have the data you requested. These dimensional anomalies are as dangerous as you suspected, perhaps more so. Darth Sidious's hologram appeared, yellow eyes gleaming with malicious satisfaction. Excellent. Now we know what we face. Prepare Phase 2, my apprentice. If they cannot be controlled, they must be eliminated. But carefully. Make it appear accidental. Make it seem like the war's inevitable tragedy. Let them die as heroes while serving our purposes. And if they survive, then they will have proven worthy of more direct attention, one way or another, Lord Tyrannus. They will serve the dark side's triumph. Even heroes can be made into tools when wielded by a master's hand. The hologram faded, leaving Dooku alone with his thoughts and the weapon he was about to unleash on Mandalore, a weapon that would force the Dimensional Warriors to make impossible choices, to reveal their true natures, and ultimately to fail despite their noble intentions. Because that was the Sith way. Not to defeat heroes in fair combat, but to corrupt their victories into defeats, to turn their strengths into weaknesses, and to prove that in the end, darkness always triumphed over light. Always. The Mandalorian royal palace was a fortress disguised as art, all flowing curves and elegant archways that concealed defensive positions and reinforced structures. Duchess Satine led them through halls adorned with historical murals showing Mandalore's transformation from warrior culture to peaceful society, images of burning cities giving way to rebuilt communities, weapons being melted down into agricultural tools, children playing where armies once marched. Drizzt studied the murals with an appreciation born of his own journey from darkness to light. Your people chose a difficult path, Your Grace. To abandon what you were in favor of what you might become requires courage that most civilizations never find. You understand more than most, Drizzt Do'Urden, Satine replied, gesturing them into a secure conference room. Ahsoka mentioned you come from a dark heritage, but chose a different way. We have that in common, you and Mandalore. The conference room's windows overlooked Sundari's gleaming cityscape, but also showed the wastelands beyond, reminders of what unchecked violence had wrought. Satine's advisors were already present, along with several holographic representatives from Mandalore's allied worlds. "We must address the obvious," said Prime Minister Almec, a stern-faced Mandalorian who radiated disapproval. "Death Watch knew your arrival time, Senator Amidala. They knew the Duchess would personally greet you. This suggests a security breach at the highest levels." Padme's expression remained diplomatic, but her eyes were sharp. "Or it suggests separatist intelligence. Count Dooku has resources throughout the galaxy. Our flight plan was filed through Republic channels we know have been compromised before." "Either way," Ahsoka interjected, "Death Watch is escalating. This wasn't a random terrorist attack. It was assassination targeting both the Duchess and a Republic senator. That's an act of war." Max had been quiet since entering the palace, his sensors working overtime. Steele's analysis painted a disturbing picture. "There's something you all should know. I'm detecting unusual energy signatures throughout the city, specifically in the lower levels and industrial sectors. Power fluctuations consistent with large-scale manufacturing or assembly operations, and encrypted communications traffic that's way too sophisticated for a terrorist cell." "What are you suggesting?" Almec demanded. "That Death Watch has help. Big help. The kind of resources that only nation-states or major military organizations can provide." Max pulled up holographic displays from his armor's database. Steele's comparing the communication protocols to known separatist encryption. "It's a match." Satine's face hardened. "If Dooku is building a military installation on Mandalore, that violates every neutrality treaty we've signed. It would give the Republic cause to occupy our world, which is exactly what the Separatists would want, to turn Mandalore into another battlefield." "Or," Drizzt said quietly, his Ranger instincts piecing together the puzzle, "they are building something they do not wish the Republic to discover until it is too late. Lady Tano, you mentioned experimental weapons. Could this be similar?" Ahsoka's mind raced, connecting dots. The experimental weapon that had torn dimensional rifts. Death Watch suddenly receiving advanced support. A hidden facility on a neutral world where Jedi surveillance was minimal. "We need to investigate those power signatures. If Dooku is building another superweapon here, we have to stop it before it's operational." "Absolutely not," Almec stated firmly. "Mandalore will not be the staging ground for Republic military action. We have maintained our neutrality through careful diplomacy, not by inviting conflict onto our soil." "With respect, Prime Minister," Padme said with diplomatic steel, "if the Separatists are already building military installations here, your neutrality has already been violated. The question is whether you address it yourselves or wait for the Republic to learn of it through other channels." The political tension in the room could have been cut with Drizzt's scimitars. These were good people trying to protect their world, but also people trapped by the very peace they'd worked so hard to build. They wanted to believe neutrality could protect them, even as war crept through their doors. "I will investigate," Satine decided, her voice brooking no argument. "As Duchess, I have authority to inspect any facility on Mandalore. If there is a Separatist installation, I will document it and present evidence to the Galactic Senate. That is the lawful, peaceful approach." "That's also a great way to get yourself killed," Max pointed out bluntly. "Your Grace, with respect, you're not a soldier. If Dooku has something down there he doesn't want discovered, he'll have it heavily guarded. You walk in there with just your royal guards, you're not walking out? Then I will take additional protection." Satine's gaze swept over Drizzt, Max, and Ahsoka. The Republic's consultants seem more than capable. "Your Grace," one of her advisors protested, "you cannot seriously consider—" "I can, and I will. Mandalore's future is at stake. If our neutrality has been compromised, I need to know, and I need proof that even the Senate cannot ignore. Satine stood, her decision made. We leave in 1 hour. Prime Minister Almec, you have command in my absence. Senator Amidala, I trust you will document everything for your report to the Republic. As the meeting dissolved into logistics and preparation, Drizzt pulled Ahsoka aside. This is a trap. You know this, yes? Of course it's a trap, Ahsoka replied grimly. That's why we're walking into it. Whatever Dooku is hiding down there, it's important enough that he tested us first. We need to know what we're up against. Steele's analysis suggests the facility is in Mandalore's lower industrial sectors, Max added, joining them. Old mining tunnels that were abandoned after the planet's ecological restoration. Perfect place to hide something big. But also perfect place for an ambush. Drizzt's hand rested on Twinkle's hilt, the familiar weight a comfort in uncertain times. In the Underdark, we had a saying. The spider's web looks like home until you touch it. We are about to touch the web, my friends. Be ready for the spider. 1 hour later, their group descended into Mandalore's depths aboard armored repulsor craft. Duchess Satine had brought a small contingent of her most trusted guards, warriors who remembered the old ways even as they served the new peace. Padme had insisted on coming despite Ahsoka's protests, her handmaidens forming a protective detail that seemed far more capable than decorative attendants should be. The upper levels of Sundari gave way to industrial zones, then to abandoned sectors that spoke of Mandalore's violent past. Blast scarring still marked walls decades after the conflicts that created them. Empty foundries stood like metal skeletons, monuments to the weapons they'd once forged. The power signatures are coming from that facility, Max reported, his sensors locked on a massive underground complex ahead. Steele's detecting active reactors, large-scale fabrication equipment, and wait, those energy readings. They're similar to what created the dimensional rift that brought us here. Drizzt's eyes widened in alarm. They are building another such weapon. Or they're trying to figure out how the first one worked, Ahsoka said, the implications chilling. If the Separatists can weaponize dimensional travel, they could bring anything through, armies from other realities, beings of pure force energy, or just tear holes in space-time as a terror weapon. Their repulsor craft touched down outside the facility's massive blast doors. The entire complex radiated wrongness. The air felt heavy, oppressive, as if reality itself were uncomfortable here. Drizzt's ranger senses screamed danger with every heartbeat. Security scanners show the facility is operational but lightly guarded, one of Satine's technical advisors reported. Either they're not expecting visitors or they want us to walk right in, Drizzt finished. The spider's web. Satine activated her personal communicator, officially logging their investigation for Mandalore's public record. By authority of the Duchess of Mandalore, I am entering this facility to determine if unauthorized military operations are being conducted on our sovereign territory. All actions taken within are in defense of Mandalorian law and neutrality. The blast doors opened with a groan of protesting metal. Beyond lay corridors lit by emergency lighting, their walls lined with equipment that looked half assembled, half abandoned. But the power signatures were undeniable. Something deep within this facility was very much active and operational. They moved in tactical formation, Max on point with sensors active, Drizzt and Ahsoka on flanks, guards protecting Satine and Padme in the center. Every shadow felt like a threat. Every sound echoed with potential ambush. This is too easy, Max muttered. No guards, no security measures, just open doors and empty halls. Steele, you seeing what I'm seeing? Affirmative, Max. This facility appears deliberately abandoned, yet the power systems indicate full operational status. We are being guided towards something. They descended 3 levels before finding the first bodies. Battle droids, dozens of them, lay scattered and destroyed by what looked like lightsaber strikes. Fresh damage, no more than hours old. Ahsoka knelt beside one of the destroyed droids, studying the cut patterns. These weren't killed by Jedi. The strikes are too aggressive, too brutal. This is Sith technique, form 7th. Chuyo, the most vicious lightsaber form. Count Dooku was here, Satine breathed, understanding dawning. He killed his own droids. To cover his tracks, Drizzt said darkly, the pieces falling into place. To eliminate witnesses and create the illusion of abandonment. Whatever lies at this facility's heart, he does not wish it traced back to him. They pressed forward into the facility's core, and what they found there stopped them cold. The chamber was massive, easily 100 meters across, dominated by a device that seemed to tear at the very fabric of space. Crystalline arrays surrounded a central vortex that pulsed with sickly purple light, the same color as the rift that had pulled Drizzt and Max from their homes. Separatist technology interfaced with what looked like ancient Sith artifacts. Science and dark sorcery merged into something that made reality itself recoil. And standing before the device, crimson lightsaber ignited and glowing with malevolent purpose, was Count Dooku himself. Duchess Satine, he said with mocking courtesy, his aristocratic voice echoing through the chamber. Senator Amidala, former Padawan Tano, and of course our dimensional guests. How delightful that you've all come to witness the next evolution of warfare, though I'm afraid none of you will be leaving to share what you've learned. The blast doors behind them slammed shut, emergency bulkheads dropped across every exit, and from the shadows emerged not battle droids, but elite Mandalorian super commandos. Death Watch warriors in advanced armor, armed with weapons designed specifically to kill Jedi. They were trapped in a chamber with a dimensional weapon, a Sith Lord, and an army of the galaxy's finest warriors. And somewhere far above, Darth Sidious watched through the dark side's all-seeing eye, waiting to see if these dimensional anomalies would die like heroes or prove themselves worthy of corruption. The spider had revealed itself. Now came the killing strike. Count Dooku's lightsaber hummed with barely contained violence as he regarded his trapped prey. The former Jedi Master carried himself with aristocratic grace, even in this industrial hell, his silver beard and elegant robes somehow unstained by the facility's grime. But his eyes, those were pure Sith now, touched by the dark side's corruption. I must confess, Dooku said conversationally, I am genuinely curious about you two, dimensional travelers torn from their realities and deposited into our war. My master believes you are either potential threats or potential assets. I find the question stimulating. Drizzt's scimitars sang free of their sheaths, the enchanted blades gleaming in the dimensional rift's purple light. Beside him, Max Steel powered up to full combat capacity, turbo energy crackling across his armor like caged lightning. Ahsoka ignited her white lightsabers, stepping forward to place herself between Dooku and the non-combatants. We're not your assets or your threats, Max stated flatly. We're the guys who stop villains like you. Different universe, same principle. Brave words. Dooku's expression remained pleasant, but the force around him darkened like gathering storm clouds. But meaningless. You exist outside the grand design, fragments of realities that should never have touched ours. You will be integrated into the plan, or you will be eliminated. The choice, such as it is, remains yours. There is always a choice, Drizzt countered, his voice carrying the weight of a lifetime spent defying destiny. I have heard similar words from drow priestesses and demon lords. They all believed their plans were inevitable. They were all wrong. Were they? Dooku gestured toward the dimensional weapon pulsing behind him. This device was built from specifications recovered from the wreckage of the separatist experiment that brought you here. We have studied it, refined it, learned to control what was once accident. With this technology, the Confederacy can reach into other realities and extract whatever resources we require, armies, weapons, perhaps even versions of Jedi Masters who never fell to weakness and sentiment. Satine's voice cut through the tension with regal fury. You built a weapon of mass destruction on Mandalorian soil. You violated our neutrality, our sovereignty, our trust. Your neutrality was always an illusion, Duchess, Dooku replied without looking at her. Mandalore has been a pawn in galactic politics for millennia. At least have the honesty to acknowledge it. Your people were warriors once, glorious, strong, feared throughout the galaxy. Then you chose weakness and called it wisdom. Pathetic. Two Death Watch super commandos stepped forward, their body language eager. These were true believers in the old warrior ways, seeing Dooku as the harbinger of Mandalore's return to glory. Their weapons, modified blasters designed to overload lightsaber containment fields, tracked Ahsoka with professional precision. Enough talk, the lead commando growled through his helmet's speakers. Let's see if these outsiders bleed like everyone else. The battle erupted with brutal intensity. Dooku moved first, force-enhanced speed carrying him toward Ahsoka in a blur of crimson death. Their lightsabers met in a shower of sparks, white against red, light versus dark. But Ahsoka had trained under Anakin Skywalker, the Chosen One, and she'd learned that power meant nothing without control. She gave ground, deflecting rather than blocking, using Dooku's superior strength against him by redirecting his strikes into awkward positions. Max engaged the Death Watch commandos with turbo speed, moving faster than their targeting systems could track. Energy blasts carved through armor joints and weapon systems, disabling rather than killing. Max Steel didn't do lethal force unless absolutely necessary. Two commandos dropped within seconds, their equipment sparking and useless. But these were Mandalorian super commandos, not regular Death Watch thugs. They adapted instantly, switching to flame projectors and rocket salvos that forced Max to dodge rather than advance. The industrial chamber became a war zone of fire and explosions, with Max dancing through the chaos like a blue comet. Drizzt faced 4 commandos simultaneously, his ranger training from countless Underdark battles, making him nearly impossible to pin down. He moved like water, flowing between attacks with preternatural grace. Twinkle and Icing Death became extensions of his will, parrying vibroblade strikes and deflecting blaster bolts, with technique that seemed more force-enhanced than purely physical, though Drizzt was simply that skilled. One commando tried to grapple him with a fiber cord whip. Drizzt caught the cord mid-air, yanked the Mandalorian off balance, and delivered a spinning kick that sent the warrior crashing into his companion. Both went down in a tangle of armor and profanity. Your techniques are impressive, Dark Elf, Dooku observed while pressing his assault on Ahsoka. But technique without force enhancement has limits. You cannot maintain such performance indefinitely. I have fought mind flayers in endless tunnels, Drizzt replied, parrying another commando's overhead strike. I have battled dragons and demons until my muscles screamed and my blades ran with blood. You know nothing of my limits, Sith. Satine's royal guards had formed a protective barrier around the Duchess and Senator Amidala, but they were ceremonial warriors facing combat veterans. Padme surprised everyone by producing a small blaster from her robes and dropping 2 commandos with precision shots that spoke of considerable personal experience with violence. Senator, Satine protested. I was Queen of Naboo during the Trade Federation occupation, Padme replied calmly, acquiring her next target. I learned to shoot before I learned to negotiate. Sometimes the former is prerequisite for the latter. Ahsoka felt Dooku's strategy even as she defended against his relentless assault. He was trying to separate them, to isolate each warrior and overwhelm them individually. The Sith fought not with honor but with pragmatic brutality, and they excelled at turning strength into weakness. "Max, Drizzt," she called out, reading the battle's flow with force-enhanced clarity. "Delta formation, protect the non-combatants." Both warriors responded instantly, converging on Satine and Padme's position. The Death Watch commandos pursued, thinking they'd cornered their prey. Instead, they'd walked into a coordinated defense by three of the most skilled combatants the galaxy had never expected to meet. Max created an energy shield wall, his turbo strength mode generating barriers that absorbed incoming fire. Drizzt positioned himself at the shield's edge, his scimitars flashing out to intercept anyone foolish enough to close to melee range. Ahsoka stood at the formation's apex, her lightsabers creating a defensive zone that nothing could penetrate. "Clever," Dooku acknowledged, walking toward them with unhurried confidence. "You fight well together despite having known each other mere days, but cooperation is not enough against the dark side's power. Allow me to demonstrate." He raised his free hand, and force lightning erupted from his fingertips, blue-white energy that could fry nervous systems and overload technology. The bolts struck Max's energy shield with devastating force, and for the first time since arriving in this galaxy, Max Steel felt his systems strain toward failure. "Steel, I'm losing power. That lightning is draining us faster than we can regenerate." "Switch modes, Max. Turbo flight. Get above the lightning's range." Max rocketed upward on jets of turbo energy, escaping the lightning but leaving the shield wall incomplete. Death Watch commandos poured through the gap, forcing Drizzt to engage multiple opponents simultaneously, while Ahsoka moved to intercept Dooku's renewed assault. "You see," Dooku's voice carried satisfaction as his crimson blade danced with Ahsoka's white ones. "You are formidable individually, but you lack unity of purpose. You are fragments thrown together by accident, not a cohesive force. You will break." But Dooku had miscalculated. These warriors weren't fragments. They were survivors who had each faced impossible odds and emerged victorious. They didn't need months of training together because they each understood the same fundamental truth. Heroes don't give up, even when the fight seems hopeless, especially when the fight seems hopeless. Drizzt saw the dimensional weapon pulsing behind Dooku and made a battlefield decision. The device was the key, not just to their current predicament, but to preventing future catastrophes. If the Separatists could pull armies from other realities, the war would never end. There would always be another enemy, another threat, another excuse for tyranny to tighten its grip. "Max!" Drizzt shouted, his plan forming with Ranger's intuition. "The weapon! Can you overload it?" Steel ran calculations faster than thought. "Possible. If I channel enough turbo energy into its power core, the feedback could cause cascading failure. But Max, that much energy discharge, will level this entire facility," Max finished, "along with everyone in it, including us. Including the weapon that could destroy realities," Ahsoka added, understanding Drizzt's strategy instantly. "Do it. We'll get everyone out." "You'll try," Dooku corrected, his force senses alerting him to their plan. He released another torrent of force lightning, not at Max, but at the blast doors, welding them shut with heat and twisted metal. "But you'll fail. No one leaves this chamber alive except by my permission." The dimensional rift pulsed suddenly, violently, as if responding to Dooku's words. Purple energy lashed out like tentacles, and through the vortex came something that made even the Sith Lord hesitate. Creatures emerged from the rift, beings of pure darkness that seemed to absorb light itself, entities from dimensions where physics worked differently and life had evolved down twisted paths. They had no eyes but saw everything, no mouths but screamed with telepathic hunger. They were predators from beyond reality, and the dimensional weapon had just opened the door to their hunting ground. "What have you done?" Satine breathed in horror. "Progress," Dooku replied, but his voice carried uncertainty for the first time. "We tested the device on uninhabited dimensions, extracted resources without incident. These creatures... This is unexpected. This is catastrophic," Steele corrected. "Max, those entities are phase-shifted. They exist partially outside normal space-time. Our weapons may not affect them. And they're multiplying. Each one that comes through is drawing more behind it." The shadow creatures ignored the Death Watch commandos and lunged straight for living force sensitives, Dooku and Ahsoka. Their hunger was palpable, alien, incomprehensible. They wanted to feed on force energy like psychic vampires from realms where such energy was rare and precious. Ahsoka's lightsabers passed through the first creature with minimal effect. It recoiled from the plasma but didn't die, reforming like smoke given predatory will. "They're not fully corporeal. How do we fight them?" Drizzt had fought incorporeal undead in the Underdark, shadows and wraiths that existed between life and death. The principle might translate: force them into solidity. They cannot feed while insubstantial, so they must become vulnerable to strike. Max switched to turbo strength mode, grabbing a massive piece of industrial equipment and hurling it at the dimensional rift itself. "If we can't kill them, maybe we can close the door they're coming through." The equipment struck the rift's containment field and exploded in a shower of sparks and twisted metal. The dimensional vortex flickered, destabilized but didn't close. Instead, it pulsed with angry purple light and released more shadow creatures, a dozen, then 24, flooding into the chamber like a tide of living darkness. Count Dooku found himself in the uncomfortable position of fighting beside those he'd intended to kill. The shadow creatures didn't discriminate between Sith and Jedi, between Republic and Separatist. They only knew hunger, and every force-sensitive being in the chamber radiated the energy they craved. "Pragmatic alliance," Dooku suggested, his lightsaber carving through shadow forms that reformed moments later. "We survive this catastrophe, then resume our ideological differences?" "Agreed," Ahsoka said through gritted teeth, her white blades moving in defensive patterns that kept the creatures at bay, but couldn't destroy them. "But if we survive, you're answering for everything you've done here." "Assuming there's anyone left to answer to," Dooku replied darkly. The Death Watch commandos discovered that their weapons were useless against incorporeal targets. Blaster bolts and flames passed through the shadow creatures harmlessly. One commando got too close, and a shadow entity lunged, its form solidifying just enough to make contact. The warrior screamed as the creature latched onto him, feeding on his life force with parasitic hunger. His armor couldn't protect against an enemy that existed partially outside reality. Drizzt moved to intercede, but Padme was faster. She'd retrieved a commando's dropped flamethrower and fired it directly at the feeding creature. The flames didn't harm it, but the intense heat and light forced it to become more solid to maintain its grip on the dying Mandalorian. In that moment of vulnerability, Drizzt's scimitar struck true. Twinkle, enchanted with magic from another reality, found purchase where conventional weapons failed. The shadow creature shrieked, a sound that existed more in minds than in air, and dissolved into nothingness. The commando collapsed, alive but drained. "They must solidify to feed," Drizzt called out, his tactical mind racing. "Force them into corporeality, then strike. Senator Amidala, more flame. Drive them toward us." Padme and her handmaidens became an impromptu flame unit, their captured weapons creating walls of fire that herded the shadow creatures toward the waiting warriors. Max generated intense light bursts with his turbo energy, the radiation forcing the entities to either solidify or retreat. Ahsoka and Dooku, despite their mutual hatred, fought with synchronized precision born of similar Jedi training, their lightsabers striking the moments when shadow became flesh. But more creatures kept coming. The dimensional rift was a wound in reality that wouldn't close, and every second brought fresh horrors from dimensions that should never have been accessible. The facility's power generators screamed with overload warnings as the rift drew energy from Mandalore's planetary grid. "Steel! New plan!" Max shouted, while grappling with a shadow creature that had solidified enough to have terrifying physical strength. How fast can you calculate a precise energy pulse to collapse the rift without causing a dimensional implosion? Define without causing a dimensional implosion, Steele replied, his tone suggesting the parameters were optimistic. Without destroying the planet. Calculating. Max, I need 3 minutes of uninterrupted sensor contact with the rift's containment field, but those shadow creatures are drawn to concentrated energy. If I focus our sensors on the rift, we become the primary target. Then we need bait, Drizzt said, understanding the tactical necessity. He looked at Dooku, at Ahsoka, at every Force-sensitive being in the chamber. They hunger for Force energy above all else. We give them a feast they cannot resist. Duchess Satine understood first, her face paling. You're suggesting using Jedi as bait, as sacrificial distractions? I'm suggesting we be very good bait, Ahsoka corrected, her jaw set with determination. Lead them away from Max while he works, then survive long enough for him to close the rift. It's risky, but it's the only option that doesn't end with those things spreading across Mandalore. Dooku's expression suggested he was reassessing his earlier dismissal of these dimensional anomalies. They thought like soldiers, not philosophers. They made brutal tactical decisions without the Jedi Order's endless deliberation or the Sith's obsession with personal power. They simply identified the problem and implemented the solution with ruthless efficiency. Very well, the Sith Lord said, surprising everyone. But understand this, when the rift closes and these abominations are dealt with, we return to being enemies. This changes nothing about the war or the separatist cause. It changes that you're still alive to have a cause, Max shot back. Now move. Steel needs that 3 minutes, and I need you all to be the most Force-radiant, attention-grabbing targets you can possibly be. Ahsoka and Dooku charged in opposite directions, their Force presence blazing like beacons in the darkness. The shadow creatures responded instantly, the horde splitting to pursue both Jedi, one fallen, one faithful, but both radiating the energy that called to interdimensional predators like blood in water. Satine's remaining guards formed a protective cordon around the non-Force sensitives, while Drizzt positioned himself between them and any creatures that broke through. His scimitars hummed with readiness, and the Drow Ranger settled into the patient alertness of a hunter who knows the prey could come from any direction. Max hovered before the dimensional rift, his armor's sensors sweeping across the vortex with methodical precision. Steel analyzed energy patterns, quantum fluctuations, and dimensional harmonics with processing speed that human minds couldn't match. But it wasn't enough. The rift's structure was unlike anything in Steel's databases, a hybrid of separatist technology and ancient Sith alchemy that defied conventional physics. I need more data, Steel admitted, frustration creeping into his normally analytical voice. The Sith components use principles that don't exist in our understanding of science. Max, we need someone who understands dark side sorcery. You mean Dooku? Max watched the Sith Lord carving through shadow creatures across the chamber, his crimson lightsaber moving in patterns that were as much ritual as combat. Yeah, that'll go well. "Hey, evil guy, help us destroy your super weapon." "I have a better idea," Drizzt interjected. The Drow Ranger had been studying the facility's architecture with the careful attention he'd learned in the Underdark, where understanding your environment meant survival. "Look at the chamber's design, those crystalline arrays surrounding the rift. They are not just decorative. They form a focusing pattern, channeling energy from those Sith artifacts into the dimensional breach." Max's sensors confirmed it. "Steel, if we disrupt the crystal array, does the rift destabilize?" "Affirmative." "But Max, if the destabilization is uncontrolled, the rift could expand instead of collapse. We'd tear a hole in reality large enough to swallow Mandalore's entire moon. But if the destabilization is controlled..." Drizzt's mind worked through the tactical problem like a chess master planning 12 moves ahead. "If we shatter the crystals in precise sequence, we could create a cascade that forces the rift to collapse inward upon itself, like a whirlpool draining into nothingness." "That's brilliant," Steele acknowledged, "but requires perfect timing and positioning. One crystal destroyed out of sequence, and the whole plan fails catastrophically." "Then we do not fail," Drizzt stated simply. "Max, you have the precision weapons. I have the understanding of systematic destruction. Ahsoka and Dooku keep the creatures occupied. Together, we close this wound in reality." Across the chamber, Ahsoka was discovering that fighting alongside a Sith Lord was both enlightening and disturbing. Dooku's technique was flawless, Form 2, Makashi, the duelist's form refined over decades into lethal perfection. But there was darkness in how he fought, a willingness to cause unnecessary pain, even against enemies that might not feel it. He didn't just defeat the shadow creatures, he made them suffer first. "You enjoy this," Ahsoka accused between strikes, her white lightsabers contrasting sharply with his crimson blade. "I am efficient," Dooku corrected. "The dark side teaches that power without passion is wasted potential. These creatures threaten my plans, therefore they must be destroyed with prejudice." Simple logic. It's cruelty disguised as logic. That's the difference between Jedi and Sith. We fight because we must. You fight because you want to. And yet, here we are, former Padawan, fighting the same enemy for the same reason. Perhaps the line between light and dark is not as clear as your masters taught you. A shadow creature lunged at Dooku's exposed flank. Ahsoka's blade intercepted it, saving the Sith Lord despite their philosophical differences. "The line is perfectly clear. I'm fighting to save lives. You're fighting to save your weapon. Motivation matters." Dooku acknowledged the save with a slight nod, something that might have been respect flickering in his eyes. "You have grown strong outside the Order's restrictions, young one. Skywalker trained you well. It's unfortunate you chose to remain bound by Jedi sentimentality. You could have been formidable as a dark side adept." "I am formidable. I just don't need to torture people to prove it." Their banter was interrupted by Max's voice echoing through the chamber. "Targets acquired! Drizzt, call the sequence!" The Drow Ranger had positioned himself with perfect line of sight to all 12 crystal arrays. His hunter's eye cataloged each one's position relative to the rift's energy flow, understanding instinctively how they connected and reinforced each other. In the Underdark, he'd learned to read the structure of caverns and anticipate collapses. The principle translated here. "Crystal Array 7, then 3, then 11, Drizzt called out with absolute certainty. "Those are load-bearing in the energy matrix. Break them, and the entire structure weakens." Max fired precision turbo energy blasts, not his usual explosive attacks, but focused beams that struck with surgical accuracy. The first crystal shattered, its fragments raining down like deadly hail. The dimensional rift flickered, and the shadow creatures shrieked in unison as their doorway wavered. "Array 3, Drizzt commanded. Another blast, another shattered crystal. The rift began to pulse erratically, its purple light strobing with increasing desperation. The shadow creatures sensed their portal home closing and redoubled their assault, determined to either escape back to their dimension or feed enough to survive in this one. "Lord Dooku," one of the Death Watch commandos called out in warning. The Sith Lord spun to see a shadow creature, larger than the others, more solid, more intelligent, lunging not at him but at the dimensional weapons control console. It had realized what Max and Drizzt were doing and moved to stop them with predatory cunning. Dooku's force lightning erupted from his fingertips, not in attack but in desperate defense. The electricity struck the console's panel, fusing the controls and preventing the creature from reactivating the crystal arrays. The action cost him. The shadow creature solidified and slashed at Dooku with claws that seemed to cut at his connection to the Force itself. The Sith Lord screamed, not in physical pain but in existential agony. The creature was severing his link to the dark side, feeding on the very power that defined him. For the first time in decades, Count Dooku felt something he'd forgotten: fear. Ahsoka moved without thinking, her white lightsabers carving through the creature in a flurry of strikes that would have made Anakin proud. The shadow entity dissolved, and Dooku collapsed to one knee, gasping as his connection to the Force slowly reformed. He looked up at Ahsoka with an expression that might have been gratitude or might have been fury. With Sith, it was hard to tell the difference. "Array 11, Drizzt's voice cut through the chaos. "Now, Max!" The third crystal exploded under concentrated turbo energy. The dimensional rift convulsed, its structure collapsing as Drizzt had predicted. The remaining shadow creatures shrieked in panic, trying desperately to return to their home dimension before the portal sealed forever. "Remaining arrays in sequence," Drizzt called, his voice steady despite the chaos. 4, 8, 12, 2, 9. Max fired with machine precision, each blast hitting its target perfectly. Crystal after crystal shattered, and the dimensional rift spiraled inward like water down a drain. The shadow creatures were pulled back through the closing portal, their forms stretching and distorting as they were forced between dimensions. The last array exploded, and the rift collapsed with a sound like reality itself, exhaling in relief. Purple light flared once, blindingly bright, then vanished completely. The chamber fell into sudden silence, broken only by the labored breathing of exhausted warriors and the crackle of damaged equipment. For a long moment, nobody moved. They'd survived. Against impossible odds, against enemies from beyond reality, they'd survived. Then Duchess Satine's voice cut through the silence with regal fury. "Count Dooku, you are under arrest for violations of Mandalorian sovereignty, construction of illegal weapons, and crimes against sapient life. Surrender immediately or face lethal force." Dooku laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "Duchess, you have no authority here. This facility was built by the Confederacy of Independent Systems. Mandalore's neutrality means you have no legal standing to arrest a separatist leader." "Then I'll arrest you," Ahsoka said, her lightsabers still ignited. "For war crimes, for threatening Republic assets, for attempted murder of a senator. Pick your favorite charge." The Sith Lord regarded them all with cold assessment, his connection to the Force restored, and his strategic mind already calculating exits. He was outnumbered, exhausted, and had just watched his dimensional weapon destroyed. But he was still a Sith Lord, still dangerous, still capable of killing everyone in this chamber if properly motivated. "This isn't over," Dooku stated, backing toward a maintenance shaft that his Force senses identified as an escape route. "You've destroyed one weapon, prevented one catastrophe. Congratulations. But the war continues, and the separatist cause remains just. The Republic is corrupt, bloated, and dying. We offer a better future. A future built on lies and manipulation," Padme countered, her diplomatic mask slipping to reveal genuine anger. A future where tyrants like you control everything while claiming to liberate people. I've seen your better future, Count. It's just another form of slavery. And yet the Republic uses clone slaves to fight its wars, Dooku shot back. At least have the honesty to acknowledge your own hypocrisy. Senator. The words hit harder than any physical blow because they carried uncomfortable truth. The clone army was slavery by another name, living beings created solely to fight and die for a government they had no choice in serving. It was a moral stain the Republic tried desperately to ignore. Before anyone could respond, Dooku unleashed a final burst of force power. Not an attack, but a massive telekinetic shove that sent everyone sprawling backward. In the moment of chaos, he vanished down the maintenance shaft with force-enhanced speed that even Max Steel couldn't track. "Let him go," Ahsoka said when Max moved to pursue. "This facility is compromised, unstable, and probably rigged to explode if we push any harder. We got what we came for, proof of separatist operations on neutral territory, destruction of a dimensional weapon, and everyone survived. That's a win by any measure." Drizzt helped Duchess Satine to her feet, his dark elven features thoughtful. He spoke truth about the clones. "That troubles me deeply. How can a republic claim to fight for freedom while enslaving millions of living beings?" "It troubles a lot of people," Padme admitted quietly, "but the Senate refuses to address it. They say we need the army to survive, that without the clones we'd lose the war to the separatists. They rationalize atrocity by calling it necessity." "I have heard such rationalizations before," Drizzt said, his voice heavy with old pain. "They are the words of those who have already lost their souls, but do not know it yet." As they made their way back through the damaged facility toward the surface, Steele conducted one final scan of the dimensional weapon's wreckage. What he found made Max's blood run cold. "Max, there are data cores intact in the debris, encrypted files containing the weapon's complete specifications, power requirements, and dimensional coordinates. Dooku didn't destroy everything. He left behind enough information to rebuild it. Or for someone else to find and rebuild it," Ahsoka realized with dawning horror. This wasn't about the weapon. This was about field testing the technology, gathering combat data, and seeing how we'd respond. "A test," Drizzt agreed grimly. "Like the ambush on the landing platform, we are being studied, measured, assessed for weaknesses. The true attack is yet to come." They emerged into Mandalore's evening air to find Republic gunships already inbound, responding to Duchess Satine's emergency beacon. Help had arrived too late to matter, as help so often did in war. But they'd survived, and they'd prevented catastrophe, and for now that had to be enough. As they boarded the transports back to Sundari, none of them noticed the tiny surveillance drone hidden in the facility's wreckage, still transmitting data to a distant separatist listening post. And from that listening post, the data flowed to Count Dooku's personal ship. And from there, through encrypted channels that even Republic intelligence couldn't crack, directly to Coruscant and the shadowed office of Chancellor Palpatine. Darth Sidious reviewed the footage of the dimensional weapon's destruction, of the shadow creature's assault, of how the anomalies and their allies had adapted and survived. His yellow eyes gleamed with predatory satisfaction. "They are more formidable than anticipated," he murmured to himself. "But that makes them more valuable when turned, or more satisfying when broken." He activated his holocommunicator. "Lord Tyrannus, the test is complete. They have proven themselves worthy of my personal attention. Proceed to Phase 3. As you command, my master. What of the dimensional weapon data? Secure it. We will rebuild it in a more remote location, away from meddling. But more importantly, we now know these anomalies can be hurt, can be manipulated, can be forced into impossible choices. That knowledge will serve us well when Order 66 commences. The Sith Lord's smile was a terrible thing. They think they've won a victory. Let them celebrate. Their despair will be all the sweeter when they realize they were pawns in my game all along. The hologram faded, and Sidious sat in darkness, contemplating the approaching culmination of his grand design. Two-dimensional warriors had arrived in his galaxy by accident, bringing with them skills and powers outside his calculations. That should have been a problem. Instead, it was an opportunity, and Darth Sidious had not become the most powerful Sith Lord in a millennium by failing to exploit opportunities. The pieces were in motion. Order 66 drew closer with each passing day, and when that order finally echoed across the stars, Drizzt Do'Urden and Max Steel would learn what every hero eventually learned in this dark galaxy: that sometimes even winning isn't enough, that sometimes evil triumphs despite everyone's best efforts, and that the real tragedy wasn't in failing to prevent catastrophe, it was in succeeding at everything except the one thing that mattered most. The aftermath of Mandalore came swiftly and brutally. Duchess Satine presented her evidence to the Galactic Senate: holo recordings of the Separatist facility, testimony from Republic personnel, documentation of the dimensional weapon, and its threat to galactic stability. The debate that followed consumed 3 days of Senate floor time, with representatives arguing about neutrality violations, separatist aggression, and whether Mandalore's sovereignty had been compromised. In the end, the Senate did what it always did: passed a strongly worded resolution condemning separatist actions while taking no meaningful enforcement action. Mandalore remained neutral. Count Dooku remained free, and the war ground onward with its relentless, consuming momentum. Drizzt stood on one of the Jedi Temple's meditation balconies, watching Coruscant's endless traffic flow past like rivers of light. 2 weeks in this galaxy, and he'd seen enough to understand its fundamental sickness. The Republic was dying, not from separatist attacks, but from internal rot that no army could defeat. Corruption in the Senate, complacency in the Jedi Order, and a population so numbed by centuries of peace that they couldn't recognize tyranny until it had already swallowed them. "You're thinking loudly," Ahsoka said, joining him at the railing. "The Force is practically broadcasting your frustration." "Forgive me. I am unaccustomed to my thoughts being so transparent." Drizzt glanced at her, this young warrior who carried burdens that would have broken lesser beings. "In my world, evil often wears obvious masks. Drow priestesses serve a spider goddess of chaos and murder. Demons announce their presence with fire and bloodshed. Here, evil wears the face of democracy and speaks with the voice of law. It is disorienting." "Welcome to the Clone Wars," Ahsoka replied with dark humor, "where everyone claims moral authority and nobody actually has any. The Jedi say we fight for peace and justice. The Separatists say they fight for independence and freedom from corruption. And the people caught in the middle just want to survive." Max Steel materialized from the shadows, his armor powered down to casual mode. He'd been working with Republic techs, sharing limited technological knowledge in exchange for better understanding this galaxy's science. Steel was fascinated by hyperspace physics. Max was just happy to have projects that didn't involve getting shot at. "Bad news from our investigation," Max announced without preamble. "Steele's been analyzing Republic communication networks, specifically the Clone Army's command and control systems. Those inhibitor chips we found in the Kaminoan files. They're not just receivers, they're neural reprogramming devices. When activated, they don't just make clones follow orders. They rewrite personality, suppress individuality, turn living beings into organic droids with no free will." Drizzt's expression darkened. "Mind control. Slavery of the absolute worst kind, not just of the body, but of the soul itself. And every single clone has one, Ahsoka added, pulling up holographic data on her personal datapad. I've been cross-referencing troop deployments with Jedi assignments. Max, look at this pattern. The clones are being systematically positioned to have maximum lethal contact with their Jedi commanders, not for tactical advantage in the war, for something else. Max studied the deployment maps, and Steele ran probability calculations that painted a horrifying picture. Order 66. They're arranging it so that when the kill order activates, every Jedi in the field will be in close proximity to clones they trust completely. Maximum surprise, maximum lethality, minimum chance of escape. We have to tell the Council, Ahsoka said, though her voice suggested she knew how that conversation would go. Present all the evidence, make them listen. They will not listen, Drizzt interrupted gently but firmly. We have presented evidence before, of separatist weapons, of Death Watch connections, of dimensional threats. Each time, the Council thanks us and files reports that no one reads. They are too consumed by the war to see the trap closing around them. Then we go over their heads, Max suggested. Take it to the Senate, make it public. The Senate is controlled by Chancellor Palpatine, Ahsoka countered. The same Chancellor who Steele's sensors indicate radiates dark side energy. The same Chancellor who has authority to activate Order 66. If we make accusations publicly and we're wrong, or even if we're right but can't prove it, we'll be arrested for treason, sedition, and conspiracy against the Republic. They stood in frustrated silence, three warriors who had each faced impossible odds and triumphed, now stymied by politics and bureaucracy. It was one thing to fight monsters and demons. It was another to fight a system designed to protect evil by making it invisible. There is another option, Drizzt said slowly, the Ranger's tactical mind working through alternatives. We do not convince the Jedi Council. We do not expose Palpatine publicly. Instead, we warn individual Jedi privately. Those who might listen, who might trust us enough to take precautions. If we cannot prevent Order 66, we can at least save some from the massacre. A network, Ahsoka realized, catching his vision. Trusted contacts throughout the Order. We don't tell them everything, just enough to make them cautious about the clones, about accepting orders from the Chancellor without question. Plant seeds of doubt that might save their lives when the moment comes. It is not a perfect solution, Drizzt acknowledged. Many will still die. But saving some is better than saving none. This is the Ranger's way. You cannot protect every forest, but you defend the groves you can reach. Max nodded agreement, his heroic instincts aligned with the pragmatic approach. Okay, so we build a list. Which Jedi are most likely to listen, most likely to survive, most critical to have alive when the Republic falls? They spent the next hour compiling names. Master Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ahsoka's Grandmaster through Anakin, pragmatic and experienced. Master Plo Koon, one of Ahsoka's early mentors, known for his independent thinking. Master Luminara Unduli, recently fought alongside them, might be receptive. Master Quinlan Vos already operated in gray areas between Jedi orthodoxy and practical necessity. And most critically, Anakin Skywalker, the Chosen One, Ahsoka's former master. The most powerful Jedi of his generation, and according to Ahsoka's carefully guarded concerns, also the most emotionally volatile. If anyone could sense darkness in the Chancellor, it should be Anakin. But Ahsoka worried that Palpatine had cultivated a relationship with him that blinded Anakin to manipulation. I'll reach out to Anakin, Ahsoka decided. He's away on a campaign in the Outer Rim, but we communicate regularly. I can plant warnings without making direct accusations. And I will speak with those Jedi who are here in the temple, Drizzt offered. As an outsider, I have perspective they may lack. Sometimes those who stand too close to a painting cannot see its full image. Steele and I will keep monitoring communications and tracking the Chancellor's movements, Max added. If Order 66 has a trigger date, maybe we can predict it and get ahead of it. Their planning was interrupted by an urgent chime from Ahsoka's comlink. Tano here. Ahsoka, it's Captain Rex. The clone trooper's voice carried uncharacteristic tension. I need to speak with you privately. It's about something I'm not supposed to remember. But I do remember, and it's scaring the hell out of me. The three warriors exchanged sharp glances. Ahsoka activated her comlink's privacy encryption. Rex, where are you? Lower levels, Maintenance Bay 73. Come alone, or with your new friends if you trust them. But no other Jedi. Please. They found Captain Rex in a dimly lit maintenance bay, his helmet removed and his face drawn with stress. CT-7567, Rex, to those who knew him, was one of the Republic's most decorated clone officers, a soldier who had served with distinction under Anakin Skywalker for years. Seeing him frightened was deeply unsettling. Captain, Ahsoka greeted him warmly. What's wrong? Rex looked at her, then at Drizzt and Max, making some internal calculation. You're going to think I'm defective. Maybe I am. But I had to tell someone, and you're the only Jedi who might listen. He took a deep breath. There's something in my head, in all our heads. I can feel it sometimes, a program waiting to execute. And yesterday I had a dream, except it wasn't a dream. It was a memory that hadn't happened yet. Order 66, Max said quietly. Rex's eyes widened. You know about it? We've been investigating, Ahsoka explained. The inhibitor chips in clone brains. They contain executable protocols, including one that would make you execute Jedi as traitors. But Rex, if you're aware of it, if you're resisting the programming, I don't know how, Rex admitted, his hands shaking slightly. I just know that sometimes I look at you, Commander, and there's this voice, this urge, kill the Jedi traitor, execute Order 66, and I have to fight it down, remind myself that you're not a traitor, that you're my friend. But the urge is getting stronger. Drizzt moved closer, his Drow heritage giving him insight into struggles between light and darkness. Captain Rex, you have shown remarkable strength of will. Most beings could not resist such programming. That you are aware of it at all suggests something in you is stronger than the control mechanisms. Or I'm just broken, Rex said bitterly. A defective clone who can't follow orders properly. You are not broken, Ahsoka said fiercely, gripping his shoulder. You're exceptional, and you might be the key to saving your brothers. Rex, if you can resist the chip's programming, maybe we can figure out how. Maybe we can help other clones break free before Order 66 activates. Rex looked at her with desperate hope. You really think that's possible? I think we have to try, Max interjected, because the alternative is millions of good soldiers being forced to murder people they care about, then having to live with that guilt. That's not justice. That's not war. That's just evil. Steele's voice emerged from Max's armor, addressing Rex directly. Captain, with your permission, I would like to scan your neural patterns and compare them to standard clone baselines. If there's something unique about your brain chemistry or structure that's allowing resistance, we might be able to replicate it. Do it, Rex agreed without hesitation. If I can help my brothers, I'll do whatever it takes. The scan took 15 minutes, with Steele analyzing Rex's neural activity with precision that even Kaminoan cloners would envy. What he found was both encouraging and troubling. Captain Rex has an abnormally high degree of neural plasticity, Steele reported. His brain has created new pathways around the inhibitor chip's control nodes. Essentially, his individuality, his sense of self developed through years of experience and emotional bonding, has grown strong enough to partially override the chip's programming. The chip is still there, still functional, but his conscious mind can fight it. Can we replicate that in other clones? Ahsoka asked. Not quickly. Neural plasticity develops over time through experience and emotional connection. The clones who would be most resistant are those with the strongest bonds to their Jedi commanders, ironically, making them also the most dangerous when Order 66 activates, because they'll be closest to their targets. But it's possible, Drizzt said, his strategic mind already working through implications. If we expose clones to experiences that strengthen their individuality, that reinforce their bonds with Jedi, we increase resistance to the programming. It is not a solution, but it is mitigation. Rex was staring at his hands as if seeing them for the first time. You're saying I'm resisting because I've been allowed to be myself? Because General Skywalker treats us like people instead of equipment? Exactly, Ahsoka confirmed. Anakin's always been different that way. He hates slavery, grew up as a slave himself on Tatooine. He'd never treat you and your brothers like property. That's probably why you developed such strong individuality. Then we spread that approach, Max said. Work with Jedi who are willing to treat clones as individuals, encourage bonding, shared experiences, emotional connections. It won't save everyone, but it might save enough to make a difference when Order 66 hits. They were so focused on their planning that none of them noticed the surveillance device hidden in the maintenance bay's ductwork. Republic security equipment that monitored for sabotage and espionage. Equipment that recorded everything. Equipment whose feeds were routed through central security and could be accessed by anyone with sufficient clearance. Anyone like Chancellor Palpatine. In his Senate office, Darth Sidious reviewed the footage with dark amusement. So the dimensional anomalies had discovered Order 66. They were warning Jedi, trying to build resistance among the clones, attempting to undermine decades of carefully orchestrated planning. It should have been alarming. Instead, it was delightful. They struggle so beautifully, Sidious murmured to himself, like insects caught in amber, fighting against inevitable preservation. But their struggle only strengthens my position. Every Jedi they warn becomes suspicious, isolated, easier to manipulate. Every clone they try to save becomes a variable I can account for and neutralize. They're doing my work for me. He activated his secure holo communicator, and a holographic figure appeared. Not Count Dooku this time, but someone else. Someone the Dimensional Warriors had met, but didn't yet understand was compromised. The anomalies have discovered Order 66's existence, Sidious informed his agent. They're attempting to create resistance among the clones and warning Jedi privately. This actually serves our purposes. When Order 66 executes and succeeds despite their efforts, it will break them. Demonstrate the futility of heroism. Make them understand that in this galaxy, the dark side has already won. What would you have me do, my lord? Continue your role. Maintain their trust. When the moment comes, you will activate Order 66 yourself and ensure that our dimensional friends witness the massacre firsthand. Let them see every Jedi they tried to save fall before their eyes. Let them understand that their arrival changed nothing, that fate is inevitable, that the Force itself wills the Empire's rise. As you command, my master. The hologram faded, and Sidious sat back in his chair with deep satisfaction. The Dimensional Warriors thought they were being clever, building networks and planting warnings. They didn't understand that in a system this corrupt, this compromised, every action could be turned against its perpetrators. Every good deed became a weapon in sufficiently skilled hands. Order 66 was no longer just a military contingency. It was a lesson in the futility of hope, wrapped in betrayal and delivered with the precision of a Sith Lord who had spent 50 years perfecting his masterpiece. "Struggle, little heroes," Sidious whispered to the surveillance footage, showing Drizzt, Max, Ahsoka, and Rex planning their desperate resistance. "Struggle with everything you have. Make your bonds stronger, your warnings more urgent, your preparations more thorough. It will make absolutely no difference when the moment comes." And that realization, that soul-crushing moment when you understand you are always going to fail, will be the sweetest victory of all. Back in the maintenance bay, unaware of the surveillance or the trap closing around them, the four warriors finalized their plans. Rex would quietly reach out to other clone commanders he trusted, Cody, Wolf, Gregor, and begin subtle conversations about individuality and choice. Ahsoka would contact Jedi throughout the galaxy with carefully worded warnings about maintaining vigilance and questioning orders that seemed unusual. Drizzt would speak with temple-based Jedi about the nature of corruption and how evil disguises itself as authority. And Max Steel would continue monitoring communications for any sign of when Order 66 might activate. It was a desperate plan built on hope and determination. It had virtually no chance of success against an enemy who controlled the Senate, the military, the Jedi Council's trust, and the very clones they were trying to save. But it was something. It was action instead of paralysis. It was the choice to fight even when fighting seemed pointless. "We may fail," Drizzt acknowledged as they prepared to disperse to their various tasks. "We are few, and the enemy is vast and entrenched in every system we might use to stop him. But I have learned in my long life that sometimes the value of fighting is not in victory, but in the refusal to surrender. We fight because we are still capable of fighting. We hope because the alternative is despair, and we trust that even if we fall, others will rise to continue the battle." "That's very inspirational," Max said with a slight smile. "Steele wants me to point out that statistically, we're probably all going to die horrible deaths." "Steele is very pragmatic," Ahsoka observed. "Steele is very realistic," the Ultralink corrected through Max's armor. "But Max is also correct. Statistical improbability has never stopped us before. We've saved Earth against impossible odds dozens of times. This galaxy deserves the same effort." Rex stood at attention, offering a crisp salute that somehow carried more weight than any military formality should. "Commander Tano, I want you to know, whatever happens, whatever this chip tries to make me do, I'll fight it. Even if it kills me, I'll fight it. You're not just my commanding officer, you're my friend, and no Sith bastard's programming is going to change that." Ahsoka returned the salute, her eyes suspiciously bright. "I know you will, Rex. And when this is over, when Order 66 fails and Palpatine's plan falls apart, I'm buying you and your brothers the biggest round of drinks the galaxy has ever seen. I'll hold you to that, Commander." They parted ways then, each to their assigned tasks, each carrying the weight of knowledge that might save lives or might prove utterly futile. The Jedi Temple rose around them like a monument to 10,000 years of service and sacrifice, unaware that its own end approached with mechanical inevitability. Drizzt made his way to the temple gardens where he'd seen Master Yoda meditating earlier. The ancient Jedi Master sat beneath a meditation tree, his eyes closed, his connection to the Force radiating like a sun. Approaching Yoda felt like approaching a force of nature. This being had lived 8 centuries, seen empires rise and fall, trained generations of Jedi. If anyone could sense the darkness gathering, it should be him. "Master Yoda," Drizzt said respectfully, bowing as he'd seen Jedi do. "Might I speak with you?" Yoda's eyes opened, and they were simultaneously kind and impossibly ancient. "Speak you wish, Dark One. Strange it is to see Drow Ranger in Jedi Temple. Stranger still to feel the Force touch you from beyond the veil of realities. Sit you will. Ask you may. Drizzt sat cross-legged across from the Jedi Master, feeling like a student before a teacher, despite his own century and more of life. Master, I have spent my life learning to recognize evil that hides behind pleasant faces. In Menzoberranzan, the Drow city of my birth, priestesses spoke words of power and tradition while committing acts of unspeakable cruelty. I learned that the most dangerous evil is not that which announces itself, but that which wears authority's mask. Wisdom you have, Yoda acknowledged. Continue. I see that same evil here, not in the separatists who openly wage war, but in the heart of the Republic itself, in the Senate, in the Chancellor's office. Master Yoda, I believe. That Sith Lord Palpatine is the Chancellor, Yoda finished, his tone carrying no surprise. Suspected this, I have. For some time now. Drizzt's breath caught. You know? Then why? Proof. We lack. Certainty the Force does not provide. Act against the Chancellor without evidence. We cannot. Political catastrophe it would create. Wait. We must, for the darkness to reveal itself clearly. And how many will die while you wait? Drizzt asked, his frustration bleeding through despite his respect. Master Yoda, waiting for evil to reveal itself is how good people lose. Evil does not reveal itself until it has already won. Yoda's ears drooped sadly. True, your words are, but act rashly we also cannot. The Jedi Order, part of the Republic we are, bound by its laws, constrained by its politics, move against the Chancellor on suspicion alone, and destroy the Order we would make ourselves traitors, justify everything the Sith claims about us. So you are trapped by the very system you serve, Drizzt said, understanding and hating it simultaneously. Unable to act because action itself would prove your enemies right. The Jedi's greatest weakness this is, Yoda admitted, his ancient voice heavy with regret. For 10,000 years, peacekeepers we have been. Politics and war not our way. Now generals we become, politicians we must be, and lose ourselves we do in roles not meant for us. The Force shows me. Darkness coming. Great betrayal. Fire in the temple. Younglings crying. But change it how, I cannot see. Drizzt leaned forward, urgency in every word. Then let me help. I am not Jedi, not bound by your restrictions. I am Ranger. Trained to see traps and spring them before they close. Give me your trust, Master Yoda, and I will do what Jedi cannot. I will investigate Palpatine directly, gather proof that even the Senate cannot ignore, and expose him before his plan reaches fruition. Yoda studied the Drow Ranger for a long moment, the Force swirling between them like invisible currents. Finally, the ancient master spoke. Trust you I do, Drizzt Do'Urden. See in you I do what see in Ahsoka Tano I did, strength to choose light despite darkness calling. But warn you I must. Palpatine is powerful beyond measure, Sith Lord of unprecedented skill. Investigate him and die you might. Fight him and fall you certainly will. I have faced demon lords and dragons, Drizzt replied with quiet intensity. I have stood against the Spider Queen's chosen and survived the Underdark's deepest horrors. I do not seek death, Master Yoda, but I will not avoid it if avoiding means allowing evil to triumph. That is not the Ranger's way. That is not my way. Then this warning? Take. Careful you must be. The dark side clouds everything. Even my sight fails against Palpatine's deception. Trust only those you have tested. Suspect everyone. And remember, sometimes the battle lost is, sometimes survival the only victory that matters. It was the most pragmatic advice Drizzt had ever heard from a Jedi, and it suggested that Yoda understood far more about the approaching catastrophe than he'd been willing to admit to the Council. The ancient master had seen the trap, recognized its inevitability, and was preparing for survival rather than victory. "If the battle is truly lost," Drizzt asked quietly, "then what becomes of the Jedi Order? Survive some will, scatter they must, hidden, remain until darkness passes. The Sith believe they can destroy us completely, but wrong they are. Destroy the Order they may. Destroy the Jedi ideal they cannot, that lives wherever beings choose light over dark, justice over tyranny, compassion over cruelty. Then I will ensure that when the darkness comes, as many survive as possible," Drizzt promised, rising and bowing deeply. "Thank you, Master Yoda, for your honesty and for your trust. May the Force be with you, Ranger of Light born from darkness. Strange are the ways of the Force, bringing you to us at this hour. Accident, I do not believe it was. Purpose, all things have. Yours, perhaps to be reminder, that even in darkest night, choice remains. Always, choice remains." As Drizzt left the gardens, he felt both validated and terrified. Yoda had essentially confirmed everything they'd suspected, while also admitting the Jedi Order was powerless to stop it. The galaxy's greatest guardians were trapped by their own principles, waiting for a catastrophe they could see coming but couldn't prevent. Well, if the Jedi couldn't act, then the Drow Ranger who owed this galaxy nothing but chose to help anyway would act for them. Across the temple, Max Steele had infiltrated the communications center using access codes that Steele had borrowed from Republic security networks. They were currently downloading encrypted military communications, looking for patterns that might indicate Order 66's activation date. "This is definitely illegal," Max muttered while Steele worked. Breaking into Republic military systems, downloading classified data, probably committing about a dozen types of treason. "Would you prefer to stop?" Steele asked. "Hell no. Just acknowledging that if we're caught, we're going to prison forever. Or executed. Probably executed. Then let's not get caught." The data download completed, and Steele began analysis. Most of it was standard military traffic, troop deployments, supply requisitions, tactical reports from the Outer Rim sieges. But there were anomalies. Encrypted messages flowing from the Chancellor's office directly to clone commanders, bypassing normal chain of command. Messages that Steele's decryption algorithms couldn't break, suggesting either Sith alchemy in the encryption or technology beyond Republic standard. "Max, I'm detecting a pattern. Every 48 hours, there's a test pulse sent to all clone inhibitor chips. It's checking their functionality, confirming they're all operational, and ready to receive the activation code. The pulses have been increasing in frequency over the past 2 weeks. Meaning what? Meaning Order 66's activation is approaching. Based on pulse frequency acceleration, I estimate we have between 2 weeks and 1 month before the Order executes." Max's stomach clenched. 1 month. Maybe less. They had 1 month to warn Jedi across the entire galaxy, to build resistance among millions of clones, to gather evidence against the most powerful politician in the Republic, and to somehow prevent a massacre that the galaxy's greatest Force users couldn't see coming. "We need more help," Max realized. "We can't do this alone. We need allies, powerful ones, people who can move fast and hit hard when the time comes." Agreed. But who? The Jedi Council won't act without proof. The Senate is compromised. The clone army is the weapon being used against us. Who's left? Max thought for a moment, then smiled grimly. Mandalorians. Duchess Satine's neutrality keeps them out of the war, but she owes us for saving her life. And Mandalorians have no love for the Republic or the Separatists. They're independent, skilled, and not controlled by any chips or force manipulation. That is actually a tactically sound suggestion. I'm impressed, Max. I have my moments. Come on. We need to contact Ahsoka and Drizzt. Time to expand this resistance beyond just us. As Max exfiltrated the communication center, neither he nor Steele noticed the security subroutine that had logged their intrusion. Just a single line of code buried in millions of routine entries, easily overlooked by anyone not specifically looking for it. A line of code that reported directly to a very specific office, and in that office, Darth Sidious read the intrusion report with dark amusement. The Dimensional Warrior had found the Order 66 test pulses, had calculated the timeline, was now scrambling to build a resistance with less than a month remaining. Perfect, Sidious murmured. Let them scramble. Let them recruit allies and build their little network. The more they invest in their resistance, the more devastating when it all fails. And fail it shall, because I already know every move they'll make before they make it. Because I've been planning this for 50 years while they've had mere weeks. Because I am the Sithari, the master of the dark side, and they are children playing at war. He made a few adjustments to the timeline, accelerating certain deployments and ensuring that when Order 66 activated, it would catch their resistance at the worst possible moment. Not when they were unprepared. That would be too easy. No, he would let them prepare fully, let them believe they had a chance, then demonstrate with absolute clarity that chance was always an illusion. That was the true power of the dark side, not to defeat hope before it formed, but to let it flourish and grow strong, then crush it so completely that despair became the only remaining option. Order 66 was no longer just a military operation. It was a masterpiece of psychological warfare, a demonstration of the dark side's supremacy, and a lesson that would echo through galactic history, that in the end, even heroes from beyond the stars could not prevent the Empire's rise. The countdown had begun. 28 days until the galaxy burned, until the Jedi fell, until two-dimensional warriors learned that sometimes losing was inevitable, no matter how hard you fought. 28 days until hope died and darkness triumphed. 28 days until Order 66. 26 days. That's all the time they had managed to secure. Max Steele's calculations had been optimistic. Darth Sidious had accelerated the timeline, sensing that his prey was becoming too organized, too dangerous to leave uncontained. The test pulses to the inhibitor chips had increased to every 12 hours, then every 6. Order 66 wasn't approaching anymore. It was imminent. The resistance they'd built in those desperate weeks was impressive but insufficient. Ahsoka had warned 16 Jedi Masters scattered across the Outer Rim, planting seeds of doubt about clone reliability and Chancellor Palpatine's trustworthiness. Drizzt had spoken with dozens of temple-based Jedi, sharing his perspective on how evil disguised itself as authority. Rex had quietly reached 8 other clone commanders, helping them recognize the programming in their heads and fight against it. But there were 10,000 Jedi in the Order, millions of clone troopers, and one Sith Lord who controlled the Republic's highest office, the Senate's legislative power, and the military's command structure. The math was brutally simple. They couldn't win. They could only minimize the massacre. Now, standing in a secure bunker deep beneath Coruscant's surface, provided by Duchess Satine's Mandalorian contacts, the core resistance group gathered for what might be their final planning session. Ahsoka, Drizzt, Max Steele, Captain Rex, and surprisingly, Master Obi-Wan Kenobi, who had returned from the Outer Rim after receiving Ahsoka's cryptic warnings. "Let me ensure I understand correctly," Obi-Wan said, his usually calm demeanor strained. You're claiming that Chancellor Palpatine is a Sith Lord, that he's orchestrated the entire war from both sides, and that he's about to activate a protocol that will force the clone army to execute all Jedi. And your evidence is sensor readings, behavioral analysis, and force visions. And these, Steele interjected, projecting holographic data. Encrypted communications between Palpatine and Count Dooku. I can't decrypt the contents, but the frequency patterns and energy signatures match known Sith communication protocols from your own archives. Palpatine and Dooku have been in regular contact throughout the war. Obi-Wan studied the data, his expression growing darker. Why bring this to me now? Why not the Council? Because the Council won't act, Ahsoka said bluntly. Master Yoda suspects, but he's trapped by Jedi protocols and political considerations. You're different, Master. You've always been more pragmatic, more willing to bend rules when necessary. And because you trained Anakin, Drizzt added quietly, who is, according to Lady Tano, unusually close to Chancellor Palpatine. If Palpatine is indeed a Sith Lord, your former Padawan may be in grave danger or already compromised. That struck home. Obi-Wan's face tightened with concern. Anakin has been spending considerable time with the Chancellor. I attributed it to political mentorship, but if Palpatine is Sith... He stood abruptly. I need to speak with him immediately. If there's even a chance... There's no time, Max interrupted. Steele's monitoring shows Order 66 could activate within hours. We're past the prevention stage. Now we're in survival mode. Rex stepped forward, his expression haunted. General Kenobi, I can feel it in my head. The Order, waiting. It's like a bomb with the countdown hidden, and I don't know when it'll detonate. But I know it's soon. Every clone commander I've warned feels the same thing. The programming getting stronger, harder to resist. When Order 66 activates, sir, we're not going to be able to stop ourselves. Not without help. Obi-Wan looked at the clone officer, someone he'd fought beside for 3 years, someone he'd trusted with his life countless times. What kind of help? Surgical removal of the chips would be ideal, Steele explained. But that requires medical facilities, time, and willing subjects. We don't have those resources. The alternative is electromagnetic pulse, targeted specifically at the chip's frequency. It won't remove the chip, but it will disable it temporarily, long enough for clones to retain free will when the Order activates. How temporarily? 48 hours, perhaps 72 with luck. Then the chip's organic components will regenerate and the programming reasserts itself. 2 days, Obi-Wan calculated. Time enough to evacuate the temple, scatter the Order, get younglings to safety. He made his decision with the swift certainty of a Jedi Master who'd survived 3 years of war. What do you need from me? Access to the temple's communications array, Ahsoka said. When Order 66 activates, we need to send a galaxy-wide warning. Tell every Jedi to run, to not trust the clones, to scatter and hide. Most won't escape, but some will. That's all we can hope for. And I need you to confront Palpatine, Drizzt added, though his tone suggested he knew the danger. Not to arrest him. You would fail against a Sith Lord of his power, but to force him to reveal himself publicly. If the Senate sees Palpatine using Sith powers, using Force lightning, his political protection evaporates. The Republic might fall, but it won't fall quietly into his hands. Obi-Wan stroked his beard thoughtfully. You're asking me to commit treason, possibly start a civil war, and definitely end my life as a Jedi. All based on circumstantial evidence and warnings from dimensional travelers I've known for less than a month. Yes, Drizzt replied simply, because you know in your heart that we speak truth. Because the Force itself has been warning you, but you've been ignoring it because the implications are too terrible. because waiting for certainty means waiting until it's too late. For a long moment, Obi-Wan was silent. Then he ignited his lightsaber, that distinctive blue blade that had defended the Republic for decades. I've always told Anakin that the key to warfare is knowing when to retreat. Very well. I'll trust the Force and I'll trust you. May we all survive to debate whether this was wisdom or madness. Their planning was interrupted by alarms screaming throughout the bunker. Max's sensors flared with warnings, and Steele's analysis painted a terrifying picture. We're surrounded. Republic forces, clone battalions, and Jedi strike teams. Someone knew we were here. A trap, Drizzt hissed, his scimitars already drawn. We have been betrayed. The bunker's blast doors exploded inward, and through the smoke came a figure in Jedi robes. Blue lightsaber ignited. Master Luminara Unduli, one of the Jedi they'd trusted with warnings, one of their allies. Except her eyes were empty, cold, and when she spoke, it wasn't with her own voice, but with the mechanical inflection of someone under absolute mental control. "Execute Order 66, she intoned. "The Jedi are traitors to the Republic. Execute Order 66. Behind her, clone troopers poured into the bunker, including several officers Rex had personally warned. But their faces were blank, their movements mechanical. The inhibitor chips had activated early, and the programming had proven stronger than individuality, stronger than friendship, stronger than love. Order 66 had begun. Rex screamed, not in pain but in fury and horror as his own chip activated. His blaster rose toward Ahsoka of its own accord, his body betraying every principle he believed in. "Commander, run! Can't! Stop!" Max hit Rex with a precisely calibrated electromagnetic pulse, and the clone officer collapsed, unconscious but freed from the chip's control. "Drizzt, get them out! I'll hold the entrance." "We stand together or not at all," Drizzt countered, but Max was already engaging turbo strength mode, his energy shields forming a barrier that blocked the corridor. "Steele and I can hold for maybe 2 minutes. That's all I'm giving you. Use it." Max launched himself at the incoming clones, not to kill but to disable. Stunning shots, targeted EMP bursts, anything to stop them without ending lives that weren't responsible for their actions. Obi-Wan's lightsaber met Luminara's in a shower of sparks. Fighting a fellow Jedi Master was agony. Every move he made was counted by training they'd learned together, techniques they'd practiced side by side. But Luminara wasn't fighting as herself anymore. She was a puppet, and somewhere far away, Darth Sidious pulled the strings. "Luminara, fight it!" Obi-Wan pleaded while parrying her relentless assault. "I know you're still in there. The Force is stronger than any programming." "Execute Order 66, was her only response, and her strikes became more vicious, more desperate. She was trying to break through her own control, and the only way the chip knew how to respond was with overwhelming violence. Ahsoka moved to help, but Drizzt grabbed her arm. "We cannot save everyone. Max bought us minutes. We must use them. The Temple, the younglings. They are defenseless." The terrible calculus of triage. Luminara was one Jedi already compromised. The Temple held hundreds of children who had no chance against an army of clones, suddenly turned against them. Ahsoka's face twisted with anguish, but she nodded. "Obi-Wan, we're going to the Temple. Find Anakin. Warn him before Palpatine turns him too." Obi-Wan didn't respond verbally, but his fighting pattern shifted. No longer defensive, now aggressive. He drove Luminara back with a flurry of strikes that would have impressed even Anakin, then Force pushed her into the wall hard enough to stun. "I'm sorry, old friend. May the Force forgive me." They ran through the bunker's emergency exits, while Max Steele held the corridor behind them. His armor was taking damage from concentrated blaster fire, and Steele reported shield integrity dropping rapidly. But he held the line because that's what heroes did. They stood in the gap so others could escape. Max, structural integrity at 40%, Steele warned. We need to retreat. Not yet. They need more time. Max, we'll die here. Then we die here, but we die buying time for people to live. That's the job, Steele. That's always been the job. A clone thermal detonator rolled toward Max's position. He had half a second to register it before the explosion consumed everything in fire and force. His shields collapsed, his armor cracked, and Max McGrath was blown backward through a wall into the bunker's lower levels. Steele's desperate calculations kept them alive, redirecting explosion force away from Max's body, using the last reserves of turbo energy to create a protective cocoon that meant Max merely broke 6 ribs instead of dying instantly. They crashed into rubble and darkness, and for a moment, Max Steele was offline. Above, Drizzt and Ahsoka reached the temple just as fire erupted from its ancient spires. Clone troopers had already breached the perimeter, and inside the massacre had begun. Jedi fell, not in glorious combat, but shot in the back by soldiers they trusted, cut down while meditating, killed while teaching younglings about the Force's beauty and peace. No, Ahsoka breathed, horror and rage warring in her voice. No, no, no! Focus, Drizzt commanded, his ranger's pragmatism overriding emotion. We cannot save those already fallen. We can save those still living. The younglings, where? Training rooms, lower levels. Drizzt, there are so many clones. Then I will carve a path through them, the Drow Ranger stated with absolute certainty. I have walked through armies before. I will do so again. You protect the children. I will be your blade. They entered the temple through a maintenance entrance, bypassing the main assault. Inside was chaos, lightsabers flashing, blaster fire echoing through sacred halls, the screams of dying Jedi mixing with the mechanical chant of "Execute Order 66" that emerged from clone troopers who had been friends hours earlier. Drizzt Do'Urden, Ranger of the North, champion of Mialiki, dark elf who had rejected evil and chosen light, moved through the temple like death given purpose. His scimitars twinkle, and icing, death sang their deadly song, and every clone who stood between him and the younglings fell. Not killed, Drizzt still refused to take lives unnecessarily, but disabled with surgical precision that left them unconscious, disarmed, or too injured to continue fighting. A lifetime of Underdark combat had prepared him for fighting overwhelming numbers in close quarters. Every corner was checked, every shadow assessed, every sound catalogued. He was the hunter, and the clones were prey who didn't understand they'd engaged something far more dangerous than themselves. Ahsoka reached the youngling training rooms to find Jedi instructor Tin Dralig making a desperate last stand against a full platoon of clone troopers. The legendary Temple Guard was wounded, exhausted, but still standing between the soldiers and 20 terrified children huddled behind him. "Commander Tano," Sin gasped in relief. "Thank the Force. We're surrounded. And I can't. I've got them." Ahsoka ignited her white lightsabers and joined Sin's defense, her blade work, pure efficiency learned from Anakin Skywalker. Together, they held the corridor while Drizzt emerged from the shadows behind the clone position like a nightmare given form. The clones never knew what hit them. Drizzt struck from behind with blinding speed, and within seconds the entire platoon was down. Sin stared at the Drow Ranger with wide eyes. "What? What are you?" "I am someone who will not let children die today," Drizzt replied simply. "Can you walk?" "Barely." "Then walk. We must evacuate before reinforcements arrive." They gathered the younglings, 20 children, the oldest, perhaps 12, the youngest barely 5. Wide eyes stared at Ahsoka and Drizzt with terror and confusion. unable to comprehend why the clone troopers they'd trusted were suddenly trying to kill them. "Younglings, listen to me," Ahsoka said with forced calm. "The temple isn't safe anymore. We're going to take you somewhere secure, but you must be very quiet and very brave. Can you do that?" 20 small heads nodded, and despite the horror surrounding them, they fell into disciplined formation. Even children in the Jedi Order were trained for emergencies. They just never imagined an emergency like this. The escape route took them through the temple's ancient lower levels, past rooms that hadn't been used in centuries. Behind them, the sounds of battle raged, Jedi making final stands, clones executing their terrible orders, the systematic destruction of 10,000 years of accumulated wisdom and history. They emerged into Coruscant's underworld, those vast levels beneath the gleaming surface where sunlight never reached, and the Republic's authority was more suggestion than law. Here, in the shadows and filth, they might find safety, might find time to regroup and plan. Except waiting for them in the darkness was a figure in black armor, crimson lightsaber ignited, surrounded by the 501st Legion, Anakin Skywalker's personal battalion of clone troopers. But it wasn't Anakin Skywalker anymore. The eyes behind that mask were Sith yellow, and when he spoke, the voice was mechanically distorted, but recognizable. "Ahsoka Tano," Darth Vader said, the name Palpatine had given him hours earlier after his fall. "You survived. Good. The Emperor wants you brought before him. You and the dimensional anomaly. The children..." His lightsaber hummed with terrible promise. "The children are unnecessary variables." Ahsoka stepped in front of the younglings, her white lightsabers raised in defiance. "Anakin, this isn't you. I know you're still in there. Fight it. Fight the dark side." "Anakin Skywalker was weak," Vader replied. "He's dead. I killed him myself." "Then I'll kill you," Ahsoka said, her voice breaking with grief and determination. "I'll kill you to save what Anakin would have wanted saved." Drizzt stood beside her, both scimitars ready, knowing they faced an enemy beyond anything he'd fought before. A Sith Lord at the height of his power, freshly fallen and burning with rage and pain, leading an army of clone troopers with no choice but to obey. The odds were impossible, the situation was hopeless, and in the shadows behind them, 20 younglings waited for heroes to save them. Drizzt Do'Urden and Ahsoka Tano prepared to make their final stand. The battle began with Vader's force push, a telekinetic wave that should have crushed them against the walls. But Drizzt had fought mages before, and his ranger instincts read the buildup of energy. He grabbed Ahsoka and dove sideways, the force attack missing them by inches and exploding against ancient stone. "Impressive," Vader acknowledged, his mechanical breathing echoing in the underworld darkness. "You anticipate force attacks without force sensitivity. Rare, useful. Perhaps you would serve the Empire better than as corpses." "I serve no Empire," Drizzt replied, his scimitars moving in defensive patterns. "And I have rejected better offers than yours." Ahsoka engaged Vader directly, her white blades clashing against his crimson one in a duel that mixed grief with fury. She knew every one of Anakin's techniques, had trained under him for years, understood his fighting style intimately. But Vader fought differently, more brutal, more aggressive, channeling rage instead of discipline. Form Phi, Gem So, but corrupted by the dark side into something more savage. "You were my brother," Ahsoka shouted between strikes. "You were supposed to bring balance, not destroy it." "Balance?" Vader's laugh was harsh and artificial through the respirator. "The Force is about power, Ahsoka. The Jedi lied to us, made us weak with their ridiculous attachments to mercy and restraint. Palpatine showed me the truth. Through strength, through passion, through power, I will bring order to the galaxy." Behind them, Sindralig organized the younglings into a defensive cluster while Drizzt engaged the advancing 501st clones. The Drow Ranger moved like water, his enhanced elven speed making him nearly impossible to target. Blaster bolts missed by millimeters as he wove between them, and his scimitars disabled clone after clone with strikes that were surgical in precision. But there were too many. For every clone Drizzt disabled, 3 more took his place. They felt no fear, showed no hesitation, and the inhibitor chips made them willing to die without question to complete their mission. They were the perfect soldiers and perfect tools of genocide. "Drizzt," Sin called out desperately, "we need to retreat. We can't hold them." "There is nowhere to retreat," Drizzt responded, parrying a vibroblade strike from a clone who'd drawn melee weapons. "Behind us are children who cannot defend themselves. Here, we stand." The clone raised his blaster for a point-blank shot at Drizzt's face. Before he could fire, his head snapped back from a precisely aimed turbo-energy blast. Through the underworld darkness came Max Steel, his armor cracked and sparking but still functional, limping but determined. "Sorry I'm late," Max gasped, pain evident in every word. "Steel had to reboot half our systems. We're running on maybe 20% capacity, but 20% of Max Steel is better than nothing." "You should have fled," Drizzt said, though relief flooded through him. "Heroes don't flee," Max replied, positioning himself to protect the younglings. "We stand together. That's how this works." The 501st hesitated briefly, surprised by this battered warrior's refusal to stay down. Steel used that moment to analyze Vader's energy signature and made a disturbing discovery. Max, that Sith Lord, he's barely holding together. His life support armor is the only thing keeping him alive. Whatever happened to him recently, it nearly killed him. "Good," Max said grimly. "Then let's finish the job." He launched a turbo-energy barrage at Vader, not maximum power, but everything they could safely channel. The blue-white energy struck Vader's crimson blade, and for a moment, light battled darkness in the underworld depths. Vader deflected most of the assault, but several blasts struck his armor's chest panel. Warning lights flared across his life support systems, and for the first time since his transformation, Darth Vader felt something approaching fear. The Dimensional Warrior's technology could damage systems the Force couldn't protect. "Ahsoka, now!" Max called. She understood instantly. While Vader was distracted managing his damaged life support, Ahsoka struck with every technique Anakin had ever taught her. White blades moved in forms she'd practiced 10,000 times, and for a moment, just one shining moment, she had the advantage. But Vader was the chosen one, and even wounded, even newly fallen, his power was immense. He grabbed Ahsoka with the Force and slammed her into a wall with bone-crushing impact. She crumpled, unconscious, blood trickling from her temple. "No!" Drizzt's cry echoed through the underworld, and the Drow Ranger's discipline shattered. He'd lost too many friends to darkness, watched too many good people fall to evil's machinery. Not again. Not here. Not while he still drew breath. The hunter roared to life within him, that primal rage that Drizzt kept carefully controlled, the savage fury of a panther he'd learned to channel from Gwenweavar. He became a whirlwind of blades and fury, cutting through the 501st like a storm through leaves. Clones fell. Not disabled this time, Drizzt had no time for mercy. Those who stood between him and Vader died with the clinical efficiency of a predator who'd been forced past all restraint. Twinkle and Icing Death drank deep of clone blood, and the Drow Ranger's lavender eyes blazed with righteous fury. Vader felt it through the Force. This being who shouldn't exist, channeling rage that rivaled any Sith's passion. Interesting. You have darkness in you, Ranger. I can feel it. Channel that rage, embrace it, and you could be powerful." "I embrace nothing," Drizzt roared, launching himself at Vader with devastating speed. His scimitars met the lightsaber in a clash that sent sparks showering across the battlefield. "I am rage-controlled." "Darkness acknowledged but not embraced. I am Drizzt Do'Urden, and I will not let you kill these children." They dueled in the darkness, Sith Lord against Drow Ranger, lightsaber against enchanted steel. Vader had the Force, had power beyond mortal limits. But Drizzt had a lifetime of fighting impossible odds, had technique refined in the Underdark's merciless depths, and had absolute certainty that if he fell, innocents died. He couldn't match Vader's raw power, couldn't overcome the Force's telekinetic advantages, but he could be fast enough, skilled enough, determined enough to buy time. And time was all they needed. Because from the shadows emerged Duchess Satine's Mandalorian strike force, 40 warriors in Beskar armor, armed with weapons designed specifically to kill Force users. They'd been waiting in reserve, prepared for the moment when Order 66 activated. Now they struck with perfect coordination. Flame projectors forced Vader to defend. Sonic weapons disrupted Force concentration. Whistling birds, micro-missiles that no lightsaber could deflect, peppered his armor. And Beskar spears thrust forward, carried by warriors who'd made killing Force users into an art form. Vader was powerful, but even the Chosen One couldn't fight 40 Mandalorians and two-dimensional warriors simultaneously while protecting damaged life support. He made the only tactical decision possible: retreat. "This isn't over," Vader promised, force jumping to the ceiling and disappearing into the underworld's labyrinthine passages. "The Emperor wants you alive, but I can deliver corpses just as easily. We will meet again." The 501st followed their commander in retreat, leaving behind dozens of their own dead or disabled. The Mandalorians secured the area with professional efficiency, while their medic rushed to Ahsoka's side. "She's alive," the medic reported. "Concussion, broken ribs, but she'll survive." The Drow fought well. "I haven't seen anyone move like that since the old gladiator pits." Drizzt stood among clone bodies, twinkle and icing death dripping with blood he'd never wanted to shed. These were good soldiers forced to commit evil by programming they couldn't resist. They'd died fighting against their will, slaves to the very end. "I am sorry," he whispered to the fallen. "You deserved better than this. You all deserved better." Max limped to his side, his armor barely functioning. "We saved the kids, 20 younglings who would have died. Ahsoka's alive, Sin's alive. We didn't win, but we didn't lose everything. That's something." "Is it?" Drizzt looked at the blood on his blades. "I have killed more in the last hour than in the previous year combined. I have become what I always fought against, a killer who justifies murder by calling it necessary." "No," Max said firmly. "You became what heroes sometimes have to be, someone who makes impossible choices so others don't have to. Those clones, their inhibitor chips were active. You couldn't save them and the kids. You chose the kids. That's not murder. That's triage." Duchess Satine approached, her royal bearing somehow maintained despite leading a military strike force. "The temple is lost. Order 66 has succeeded across the galaxy. We're receiving reports of Jedi executions on dozens of worlds. Master Yoda and Master Obi-Wan survived and are calling for all Jedi to scatter and hide. The Republic is falling. Palpatine is declaring himself Emperor. Your resistance failed." "Not entirely," came a weak voice. Ahsoka stirred, wincing as the medic helped her sit. "We saved 20. Maybe Obi-Wan and Yoda saved others. Every Jedi who survived because of our warnings is a victory Palpatine didn't get. Every clone who resisted long enough for their commander to escape is proof that the programming isn't absolute. But the Order is destroyed, Satine countered. The Republic is dead. The Empire is rising. You three came to this galaxy by accident, and all you've accomplished is to witness its fall. Drizzt cleaned his blades slowly, methodically, his dark elven features unreadable. Then he sheathed them and looked at Satine with eyes that had seen too much darkness and chosen light anyway. We came by accident, he agreed, but we fought by choice. We warned who we could, saved who we could, and stood against evil even when victory was impossible. That is not failure. That is heroism, not the kind that wins wars, but the kind that preserves hope when everything else is lost. He's right, Max added, powering down his damaged armor. Steel and I have saved Earth 100 times, but we've also failed. We've watched people die, seen villains escape, lost battles we should have won. You know what we learned? That success isn't measured by stopping every tragedy. It's measured by refusing to quit, by standing up one more time than you're knocked down. The Mandalorian leader, a scarred veteran named Rook, stepped forward. The Drow and the Techno-Warriors speak truth. My people learned this lesson generations ago. Sometimes survival is the only victory available. But survival means opportunity. Opportunity means eventual triumph. The Empire thinks it has won. Let them think that. We will teach them otherwise. Over the next hours, they coordinated evacuation. The 20 younglings were smuggled off Coruscant, aboard Mandalorian vessels that the Empire wouldn't search. Ahsoka, still healing, insisted on accompanying them. Someone has to teach them, keep the Jedi traditions alive. If I'm the last instructor they have, then I'll be the best one I can be. Sindralig chose to remain on Coruscant, going deep underground to establish a resistance cell. I'm too old to run, too stubborn to hide. The Empire will hunt Jedi for decades. Someone needs to fight back. Captain Rex and the handful of clone officers who'd resisted their programming were extracted by Mandalorian forces. They would spend the rest of their lives fighting against the Empire that had enslaved them, trying to free their brothers from mental bondage. And Drizzt and Max faced a choice. Stay in this galaxy and fight a war that might last decades, or try to find a way home to their own universes. Steele's been analyzing the dimensional weapons data cores we recovered, Max explained. With time and resources, we might be able to build a smaller version, one that could open rifts back to our home dimensions. But it would take years, maybe decades, and there's no guarantee it would work. Drizzt looked at the ruined temple in the distance, at the Empire's banners rising over what had been the Republic. He thought of Bruenor, Catti Brie, Wulfgar, Regis, his friends in Faerun who might think him dead. He thought of Mieliki's forests and the 10 towns he'd sworn to protect. But he also thought of the younglings learning to be Jedi in hiding, of the resistance fighters who would need training and wisdom, of a galaxy where evil had triumphed and light needed champions who weren't bound by failed traditions. I think, Drizzt said slowly, that the Force brought me here for a reason. Perhaps I was meant to witness the fall so I could help build the rise. Perhaps my century of fighting darkness in my world prepared me to fight darkness in this one. So you're staying? Max asked. For now, until either I find a path home or I find purpose sufficient to make this my new home. What of you, Max Steele? Max thought of his mom, of his friends at school, of Earth and all its familiar problems. But he also thought of the Empire spreading like cancer, of Jedi hunted like animals, of clone troopers enslaved by their own biology. Someone's got to help these people build their resistance. Someone's got to show them that dimensional warriors don't give up just because the odds are impossible. Besides, he managed a tired grin, Steele wants to study this galaxy's technology. He's like a kid in a candy store. I am analytical, not childish, Steele protested. But yes, There is much to learn here, and much to teach. As Coruscant's false dawn broke over the Empire's first day, two warriors from beyond the stars stood with survivors in the ruins of what had been and dreamed of what might yet be. They had failed to prevent Order 66, failed to stop Palpatine, failed to save the Republic. But they had saved 20 children, protected dozens of Jedi who might rebuild the Order in secret, proven that even without the Force, even from outside this reality, heroes could make a difference. The Empire had risen, but resistance had been born, and in a galaxy far, far away, where darkness seemed absolute and evil had triumphed completely, two-dimensional warriors prepared for a longer war, one measured not in battles, but in lives saved, hope preserved, and the patient, persistent belief that tyranny could not stand forever against those who refused to bow. The galaxy would remember Order 66 as the day the Jedi fell, the Republic died, and the Empire rose from the ashes of democracy. But in hidden corners, in whispered legends, a different story began to spread. Of a dark elf ranger and a techno-warrior who arrived by accident and stayed by choice, who fought impossible odds and saved what could be saved when everything seemed lost. Drizzt Do'Urden and Max Steel never found their way home. The dimensional rifts remained closed, the technology to reopen them always just beyond reach. But they found purpose in this galaxy's darkness, teaching resistance fighters the meaning of persistence, training the next generation of Jedi in survival and adaptation, and proving that heroism transcended dimensions. 20 younglings grew to adulthood in hiding, trained by Ahsoka Tano and a Drow Ranger who taught them that darkness in one's heritage need not determine destiny. They became the seed from which a new Jedi Order might someday grow, not bound by the old traditions that had failed, but forged in the crucible of survival and resistance. Captain Rex and his liberated brothers established clone resistance cells across the galaxy, fighting to free their enslaved comrades from inhibitor chip control. Many failed, some succeeded. Each victory was measured in individual lives reclaimed, individual souls freed from tyranny's grasp. And deep in the Force, in currents that flowed through reality itself, Master Yoda sensed the anomaly's impact. They had not prevented catastrophe, but they had lit candles in the darkness. And sometimes, especially in the deepest dark, a single candle could guide others toward hope. The Empire would rule for decades, but it would never rule unopposed, because two warriors from beyond the stars had arrived by accident, fought by choice, and refused to surrender even when surrender seemed the only rational option. They were rangers of distant realms, champions of impossible causes, and proof that heroism needed no force, no destiny, no prophecy, only the willingness to stand against darkness and say, "Not today, not while I still breathe." The galaxy far, far away had gained unlikely defenders. And though the night was long and the Empire powerful, those defenders would ensure that dawn eventually came. Perhaps not in their lifetime, but in the lifetimes they protected, the hope they nurtured, and the resistance they inspired. May the Force be with them. May their home dimensions welcome them if they ever find the way back. And may their story remind the galaxy that sometimes the greatest heroes are those who had no reason to fight except the conviction that fighting was right. May the Force be with you. More stories await.